DALL-E 2 Mastery. I know a lot of you are super excited and have been waiting for this course to be released. I'm just as excited, so let's get straight into it. What I want to do in this lesson is I want to give an introduction to DALL-E 2, and we're going to briefly explore what DALL-E's capabilities are and give you an understanding behind the team's ethos to this new technology. So the first thing I want you to do is come over to openai.com/DALL-E 2. This is the home of DALL-E 2. It is created by a company called OpenAI, and it's been around since January 2021, but since then it's evolved incredibly. And it went from a tool with no real utility to something that is going to be revolutionary for all creators. The mission behind DALL-E 2, according to OpenAI, that DALL-E 2 will empower people to express themselves creatively. DALL-E 2 also helps us understand how advanced AI systems see and understand our world, which is critical to our mission of creating AI that benefits humanity. With that being said, let's log in and see DALL-E 2's interface. And you can do that just by, right at the top, you'll see here it says try DALL-E. Click that, and then from there, you are met by the interface of DALL-E. Obviously, if you don't already have an account, you got to create one. I'm sure that's pretty self-explanatory for everybody. So on the initial interface, you can see some of the images created by DALL-E 2. For example, you've got photorealistic images like this orange slice. You've got 3D renders. And also you have the ability to create or imitate famous painters. For example, if we look at this American football player, it's actually been done in a Van Gogh stylistic painting. For me, where DALL-E excels is being able to create imagery which would be difficult to create in real life. So look at this example here. A photo of a teddy bear on a skateboard in Times Square. And this is truly where I believe you can see the benefits of this artificial intelligence. Now, with that being said, one of the key pitfalls I've found is the inability to create cohesive images. But this is something we'll explore more in depth as we go through this course. It's also worth noting that DALL-E is also available as an app and can also be used within a browser, which is what I'll be doing for the rest of this course. So that's a brief introduction into OpenAI and DALL-E 2. Let's hop into the next lesson where I will be talking about the DALL-E 2 pricing system.
You know what the K stands for? Don't go. Drift Kid. Drift. One match.
So before we really get stuck into DALL-E 2, I wanted to just create this super duper quick lesson and go over the pricing model behind DALL-E 2. Currently, the price is $15 for credits. And what that means is that every time a user hits generate, they will develop a new set of images, which will take a portion of your credits. This varies depending on what are the parameters you are using in the system. DALL-E generates 4 images for every natural language prompt. DALL-E's edit and variation features generate 3 images. So using different tools inside DALL-E will use up a different amount of credits. At this point, you don't necessarily need to know what I mean by language prompts and edit and variation features. We will be going through this in more detail. So when you are inside DALL-E 2 and you want to see how much credits you have or you want to buy more, if you come up to the right hand corner and click on your profile, you'll see buy credits. And currently I have 115 credits. So if you click on buy credits, you'll see you can buy in increments of 15, hit continue, add a payment method, and then complete the payment. Essentially, DALL-E 2 is using a credit-based approach where you buy a number of credits for $15 and you can use them to generate images inside of DALL-E, to use different tools inside of DALL-E, which will produce a different amount of images. So it's not directly linked to how many images you will get out of DALL-E 2, but it's directly linked to how often you generate a series of images. We will keep an eye on the amount of credits I use within this course, just so you can have a rough understanding of the cost for particular things we will be going through. And I think that's the fundamentals out the way. So let's hop on into the next video where we will be creating our very first AI art.
Why do we need 70 laps of fuel, dude? Holy crap. Let's see what we can do here.
We've got our account set up and we're ready to start making some AI art. In this lesson, I'm going to introduce you to the user face of DALL-E 2 and get you making your very first AI art. When you come into DALL-E 2, you'll be met with this page that's reminiscent of Google. You have a large search bar in the middle where you can essentially type in your prompts. There'll also be a clock with an arrow around it. And if you click this, it will open up your recent works that you have created. So now it's time to enter your very first prompt. And prompt is what we call the words that we use to tell DALL-E 2 what to create. We're going to put in a few different words and we are going to generate our AI art. Now you can put absolutely anything in there, but there is a caveat. The main thing you need to be aware of so you don't get banned inside of DALL-E 2 is that you abide by their rules and regulations. So be careful when trying to create any explicit content. They define explicit content as anything that includes nudity or sexual connotations, violence, harm, hate speech, and suggestive content. So with that being said, let's go ahead and pick a prompt. You can even use a single word. I'm just going to type in Batman Lego and I'll hit generate. And what you'll get is DALL-E's representation of the prompts you've put in, whereby the output is 4 images. If you hover over these 4 images, you have a set of options, and those options are open in new tab, edit image, generate variations, download, or report. So if you hit open new tab, you'll be able to see the image on a larger screen. And then from here, again, you can edit variations, share, save, and of course, download. We'll go over the edit option at a later date, but what I want to do is just show you the create variations option. So I think out of these 4, I quite like the first one. Hit generate variations. What I'll essentially get is another 4 images which are very similar to the original. And this is super good if you're trying to refine or hone in on a specific style or content and you really like the look and feel of one image, but you want some type of difference or you want some type of variation of that image. And before we play around with this anymore, I just want you to take heed of the surprise me button. So let's click the surprise me button. What that essentially does is give you a random set of prompts. Now, you're not charged for the prompts that appear. You only lose credits when you hit generate. So what does this prompt say? An oil painting portrait of a capybara wearing medieval royal robes and an ornate crown on a dark background. So I'm going to hit surprise me again and come out with something else. 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background, digital art. Let's hit it again. A pencil and watercolor drawing of a bright city in the future with flying cars. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Hit generate. Cool. Not something that I would truly like, but hey, remember this is exploration of art. Just to quickly point out, you can also see on the right hand side, there are all my recent searches, so I can go back to them. So what I'm going to do is play around a bit and I'm just going to use basic prompts. So let's go with night chess. Hit generate. What I'm actually going to do is, because this is the wolf pit, let's do running wolf. Right, so that's a lot more photorealistic. I do like them, but it's not necessarily what I'm after. So what I'm going to do is put a running wolf at sunset synthwave style. So the synthwave style is 1980s style. I genuinely like the retro or outrun type of future style of art. I just wanted to show you how expanding on the prompts can completely change what DALL-E 2 outputs. So I really like those. Like, genuinely, it's a completely different style. And what I'm actually going to do is, I think I like one of these last two, probably this one. I like more of the detail on it. I'm going to hit variations and see what else comes out of it. Yeah, I really like these. In fact, I still prefer the original. Nevertheless, we've touched on two key things here. One is prompts and the other is styling. So we'll dive more into prompt engineering and we'll dive more into artistic and aesthetic styles in the next lessons. I believe at this level of your learning, it's good to just explore and play around with DALL-E 2 until you can gain further understanding of Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, where we start getting to really high level mastery stuff. And within the Creator Hub, there will be a course purely on prompt engineering, and we'll deep dive into how to truly use prompts effectively to create what you want. And in fact, what we'll do is hop into the next video where I will give you a high level breakdown of prompt engineering. In the future, the prompt is going to be more valuable than the image themselves. People who are experts in creating good prompts are called prompt engineers. So let's talk about what separates a newbie artist from a professional. A lot of people looking into the AI art space would say, well, why would I want to hire an AI artist when I could just do it myself? But the reason for that is super simple. Unless you're really good at knowing how to type the correct prompts, you could easily spend over $100 and never actually get what you want. But the competent prompt engineer can easily get what they want for literally $1. And personally, in a similar fashion to how I advocate learning through repetition, that is how I personally believe how you get better at writing prompts. However, with that being said, I'm going to go through really high level how to structure your prompts, and further within the Creator Hub, there'll be a prompt engineering mastery course for you to dive into. As this is the UGC campus, I'm going to try and keep the examples we use product specific. And for our product, let's pick some inspiration from on the screen. So we've got this basketball player here. Let's go with Nike and a pair of Jordans. So most beginners would probably type something like black shoes, sky blue shoes, or something along those lines. And this is very beginner level, essentially a basic description. Now the intermediate artist would know that you'd need to highlight the subject and the setting in order to get what you really want. So the subject in this case is the Jordan shoes, and you want them to be, let's go with sky blue or red or yellow or whatever color. But the setting is actually an advertisement. So you might want to try including something like the word advertisement or something like ad. Okay, so now the professional level or the professional artist would know that in addition to the subject and the setting, you also need to add the mood. So instead of something like cool ad sky blue Jordan shoes, go with something like epic advertisement of sky blue Jordans and movie poster. Mood and emotion being epic. The setting is advertisement. The subject is the sky blue Jordan 1s. The purpose is a movie poster. And here we could start to see the quality starts to jump up quite significantly. The more seasoned prompt engineer knows that in addition to the subject, the setting, the mood, the emotion, and the purpose, you will also need to describe the quality, the lens, the source, and the final destination. So in this particular case, we could have epic advertisement, 50mm, professional, promotional, commercial, advertisement, right? I'd most likely keep movie poster, but we want it to be something that is trending on Nike.com. So I definitely would work with something like this. And hopefully this gives you really high level about prompt engineering and understanding that how you enter the detailed description for DALL-E 2 depends on what you'd actually get. I'd most likely use this first variation, and then from there I would delve in deeper into kind of finessing the words X, Y, and Z, but that's for a whole different lesson. You can have your beginner level, which is just your basic description. You then would need to look at something like the subject and the setting. You want to look at the mood and emotion that you want, the subject, setting, and purpose. And then from there, you want to ensure that you include the quality that you're looking for, the lens, if you can, and then the destination, like what is it for, like where is it going, so to speak. I might play around with this whole concept and see what else I can come out with. So we put Epic 50mm. Let's go with Epic Unreal Engine 5. See what that gives us. I'm going to get rid of professional. I'm going to put 3D renders. This is me building on the quality, lens, and source. Now look at that, we're getting those amazing. But the key message here is that your AI art can only be as good as your prompts, and your prompts can only be as good as your imagination. So moving on from this, we'll start exploring artistic and aesthetic styling. Artistic versus aesthetic styles. So this is going to be a really quick lesson, simply because if I was to deep dive these two particular styles, we could end up being here forever, right? There's so many artists and there's so many different styles out there. What you need to do to become a competent prompt engineer is explore styles, whether they're artistic or aesthetic, that you like or you want to apply in whatever AI art you plan to create. So throughout the lesson so far, you've actually seen me apply this already, which is an American football player in the style of a Van Gogh painting. Now, if you was to go and Google search Van Gogh, for those of you who don't know, this image actually is very representative of the style of art that Van Gogh would use. So let's explore a bit. Anyone who's familiar with the Tales of Wudan, it has this very samurai kind of Japanese style of mood around it. So what I'm actually going to do is just write samurai in the style of Van Gogh. So there you have it, very similar to the artistic style of Van Gogh. Now, in terms of aesthetic, it's more related to perhaps a movement of art. So for example, you've seen me use the synthwave style, which was more of a 1980s retro type of movement. And a lot of this is getting into the nuances of understanding art. What I do recommend, if you're trying to go down the route of replicating a particular style, it's worth you doing the legwork and researching the type of artistic or aesthetic style you're looking for. So if I really wanted to go deep into the samurai stuff from a aesthetic perspective, I know in my head a lot of the old samurai art used to be like kind of ink splashes, and I know that majority of the art that was done was on rice paper. I genuinely do like the whole samurai type of themes when it comes to art in itself. So if I just went for highly detailed, maybe realistic drawing of a samurai, and then we'll include in a splash of ink, the aesthetic is probably rice paper, right? Amazing. Truly does look like some of the rice paper art that you get from the samurai style. Obviously, you could delve in deeper with the prompts and perhaps get two samurais fighting. And what we can actually do is change this to synthwave. And there you go. Look at that. I genuinely like this middle one here. This could create some great variations. Let's have a look. I still prefer the original, perhaps. I do like this one in the middle. Pretty cool. And what I'd actually like to do is show you how you can combine both an artistic and aesthetic style. There's a key thing I want to mention here. A lot of people, when they think about artistic, they always think about these old school, famous art, etc. But they never think about contemporary art as well, or things like photography. So there's a G named Lee Jeffries, and he has this amazing way of capturing photos in this really powerful portraits, and it's usually of homeless people. The images themselves are super famous, so let's try it. Synthwave and Lee Jeffries style. I wonder what that's gonna do. This shows how you can combine both the aesthetic and artistic style. I just want to try Lee Jeffries on his own and just see how this looks. So if I just went samurai Lee Jeffries style, this should be interesting. I'm going to try and throw up some pictures of Lee Jeffries here and you can see the comparison to what DALL-E 2 has come out with. Very similar, but it allows you to capture the same style and tweak it to a specific subject that you want. So in this case, samurai. But yeah, overall, I just wanted to quickly show you artistic and aesthetic styling. It's not something I'm going to deep dive. At the end of the day, you can end up in a endless loop of going through artists, going through different styles, but it's just something worth noting about the power of DALL-E 2 and creating art.
I'm on the phone with my friend. Or I was until you called me. Hello? Well, yeah, I was showing her a video, and I got a Snapchat notification, and I just stayed up on Snapchat, and I was scrolling through. Uh-huh. Well, I viewed your story before. Ooh. All the time. Uh-huh. Yeah.
so funny. It's funny. Hilariously funny. It says you're allergic to polyester. Why? A side-splitting mockumentary.
Having insane creative inspiration. It's just coming out of the hole. It's art.
Now, many of you might be concerned with spending credits whilst trying to learn how to prompt engineer an image that you are looking for properly. So I just wanted to show you a really great resource, a gallery tool available on the internet. So if you just hop over to DALL-E 2.gallery, what you can do with this is you can search for words or prompts inside of this database, which currently has more than 33,000 prompts and over 53,000 images. So you can quickly search what your prompt might look like, get some inspiration, and you don't have to use any credits or wait. So for example, here I've got Pope, and you can see a wide range of different examples that relate to the word. And what you should be able to do is pick off certain things that might interest you or you might want to apply to your AI art. So for example, here you've got a photorealistic picture of a Crusader Kings 3. So you might like the way this looks. You might take the prompt photorealistic picture. You might even take the prompt Crusader Kings, depends on what you're doing. Look at this one. The Pope going Super Saiyan level 3 photorealistic 1980s cinematic image. Let's have a look. Okay, the only thing I want to note on this is it tends not to function that great when you write more than 1 or 2 prompts in the search bar. So I guess it's more of a tool to help you gauge or figure out certain prompts that you might want to use when you're kind of exploring the AI art you want to create and you want to speed up your workflow and save on credits. Welcome to the lesson on color and how to harness color inside of DALL-E. We're going to be looking at how you can use different prompts to define color schemes in your AI art. This is a great way of implementing a mood or a feeling and vibe into your work. So pick a prompt and follow along. For my prompts, I'll be using photo of a samurai in the style of Lee Jeffries. And the very first color scheme I'd like to go over is analogous colors. Now, analogous colors are siblings in the color wheel. So they have a great relationship and they're already defined. So examples of analogous colors can be yellow, orange, and red. Now to apply this color scheme within DALL-E 2, I'll add the prompt analogous colors with the 3 colors I've just mentioned: yellow, orange, and red. And there you have it. We've managed to take the style of Lee Jeffries and apply these sibling colors to give us a completely different color scheme. Next up is complementary colors. So instead of having colors in the color wheels that are next to each other, these are colors which are opposite each other. For example, red and green. Again, add these prompts to the end of your original prompt and see what DALL-E 2 does. And there we go. DALL-E has managed to take the 2 complementary colors and add them into the style of prompt we initially suggested, which was Lee Jeffries in this case. The best way to think of these coloring prompts is to think of them as modifiers. So the next modifier we're going to look at is high saturation, and this looks at the intensity of the color, and high saturation means vivid, intense colors. So what I'll do is maintain the complementary colors red and green, and I'll add the word high saturation to DALL-E 2's prompts. And there you go. You can see we're still using the complementary colors, but they are a lot more intense, a lot more in your face, so to speak. The opposite modifier to this is low saturation. And when we say low saturation, we're talking more along the lines of having that kind of washed out bland color. It can create a more subtle type of imagery. So you can clearly see the difference between the high saturation images and the low saturation images. So this is a good way if you want to restrict the color palette, feel free to use low saturation. Next up, I want to look at contrast, and we're going to start with high contrast. So I'm going to remove saturation and write high contrast as the prompt. And what you can start to see on these images, there's a lot of difference between light and dark and the tones that are being used within the colors. Next up, I want to remove the complementary colors red and green. Also remove the modifiers of high contrast or low saturation. And I want to apply a completely different color palette, which is sepia. Now with sepia, what happens is this will give a brownish tint to the photographs, and this style is commonly associated with early 20th century photographs. And as you can see, DALL-E 2 does a really good job of implementing this color palette. Next up, I want to put in monochrome monochromatic. So funnily enough, not the best of examples because Lee Jeffries' work actually is monochromatic, but just for your understanding, essentially is bringing the color palette down to just blacks and white. But it's not necessarily always the case. You will get this hint of gray and play on shadows, but for something like this, just having the style of Lee Jeffries is enough because it's something that he often implements in his photography. And since a lot of this lesson is around color and color theory, it's also worth mentioning warm and cold colors. Now, warm and cold colors are essentially dividing the color wheel in half. So for example, we could look at the cool colors of blue and green. Let's try blue. So once again, at the end of my prompt, I'm just going to literally write in cool colors, blue. It may have been better to specifically say which shades of blue, but let's have a look what DALL-E 2 does. And it's done a really great job without me actually going into the detail of writing light blue, dark blue, navy. All I've essentially done is write cool colors, blue. And this gives a really cool color palette to the images. So if I was to just write warm colors and perhaps take out the color blue and leave the prompt warm colors, we should see a completely different mood or vibe to the images. So there you go. You can feel these images are a lot more warm compared to the cool colors. And I really like this style of color palette, but that's just down to personal preference. And what you should be doing is exploring a variety of color palettes. You can also have neon colors, fluorescent colors, pastel colors. It's entirely dependent on the style and look that you want to execute for your AI art. So before we get into the advanced stuff for DALL-E 2, I want to just cover one more topic, which is exploring composition. Composition is one of the main tools in your toolbox when defining the look of an image. So first thing you want to consider is having a still life or an object, whether you're looking above it or at eye level or below. When you look from above down on something, it gives you this dreamlike perspective. Whereas if you look at something more at eye level, it gives you more of an equal balance in the viewer and the subject. It allows you to be more empathetic. And if you're viewing up at a subject, it gives the subject more presence, more power, and almost a dominance over the viewer. So this is a great tool to play around with and help some of the narratives inside of your work. Let's go over to DALL-E 2, and here I've just created a prompt for a product design, which is customized bespoke product design, black men's sunglasses inspired by Louis Vuitton, attractive aesthetics, 3D product model render, 4K UHD, neutral background, studio lighting. And DALL-E 2 has given me some interesting concepts. I really like this one. I also think the first one's pretty cool as well. So what I'm going to do is just add the angle bird's eye perspective. So you can see from the first image here, you get a completely different look. It's in the perspective as if the viewer is looking down on the object. And this gives a different perspective when looking at the glasses. So we can also try eye level, which is more related to what DALL-E initially gave us when typing our prompt. But you can see you get this very solid spatial awareness where the glasses are at eye level with the subject. I like this one. This would be probably the one I would use. Depends what style of glasses you like, right? So essentially you could use different camera angles as modifiers within your prompts to get a different perspective. So instead of being up and down, you can almost have an in and out. Now this is commonly referred to as macro shot or long shot, and this also gives us a very different perspective. So let's just say we wanted to keep it at eye level, and I could add macro shot to my prompts, and you see you now start to get this more detailed style of image. But the key takeaway here is that by adding these modifiers, you are able to gain a different perspective of your object or whatever your image is. So it's really worth exploring composition and cinematography to then add those into your prompts. So this covers the fundamentals of DALL-E 2, and a lot of it requires you to explore things within the creative world, such as composition, such as color, such as creative ideas and artistic styles and aesthetic styles. So hop on into the next lesson and let's look at some of the more advanced features of DALL-E 2. In this lesson, we're going to upload images to DALL-E 2 and I'm going to show you how to create variation on images, which is going to create new versions of the images you've uploaded, as well as editing those images with a technique called inpainting. Inpainting allows you to take specific parts of an image and regenerate them. Beneath the generation bar, you'll see the option to upload an image. So here I've got a set of images of Tristan and Andrew Tate. I think we'll start with this close-up. So DALL-E 2 will ask you to crop the image into a square. That's fine where it is. Hit crop, and then from there you want to hit edit image. This will bring you to an image editor user interface. What this will allow you to do is erase certain parts of your image. I'm just going to erase Andrew Tate's face and click off it. Then the generate bar will appear, and for this I'm going to write V for Vendetta mask. So anyone who's familiar with V for Vendetta, it's a dystopian political film based on a freedom fighter, and he wears this particular mask. So I'm just going to hit generate, and there you have it. Within DALL-E 2, I've removed Andrew Tate's face and I've put a mask over it. I quite like that one. You can then proceed to create variations of it if you want to. I'm not going to do that at the moment. There's something that I actually want to address here is generally with AI art or DALL-E 2 specifically, when morphing a face, it does come out with some really crazy concepts. So if I try Cobra, you can see this one's very peculiar. That could probably work without the writing, and we'll discuss that at a later date. But the point that I want to make is I don't generally prefer DALL-E 2 when it comes to face creations. I do find them quite off-key. I think this is one I did earlier of Andrew and Luke standing together with the V for Vendetta mask. But yeah, you get the idea. I think to really fine-tune the in-painting technique with faces, you really need to dig down into the prompts and truly explore and go wild. So what I'd like to do now is upload another image, and I can do that by going over here to the left next to the surprise me button, hitting upload, and this time I'm going to go with Tristan, just reposition where I want my crop, hit edit, and I'm actually going to get rid of the background that Tristan is in here. There's a feature on the side of this edit image page, which if you drag this slider up or down, you can change the size of your eraser. Now the background I want to do is something of a dystopian city, perhaps like a post-apocalyptic style where, you know, Tristan and Andrew Tate are the saviors or the heroes of that dystopian city, or give that type of impression on the image itself. So to do that, I'm going to type in the prompt London, overcast, perhaps sci-fi, and we go with high quality photo. And the artist I'm going to use is Simon, I believe it's pronounced Stålenhag, and he is a Swedish artist who does these cool sci-fi post-apocalyptic type of architecture or scenery and cities. And there you go. I genuinely do like that. That background seems a bit more mild. Here you've got a few figures, not sure, maybe some UFOs, but I want something with a bit more oomph. So let's try adding maybe futuristic city backdrop, cyberpunk. And I do feel like this is on the right track of things. And what I can now do is take this image, hit edit, go back into the newly created AI background, and I might work on just this side of the image. I'm going to use the same prompts and I'm going to hit generate. And there we go. We have the addition of another skyscraper added to the background. I think that's pretty cool. We can go ahead, hit variations, and see what other variations we can get of this specific picture. I would probably still rework some of the prompts so I get more of a dystopian type of post-apocalyptic effect, and maybe that's the prompt that I should have used. But you can see in the variations, they've turned Tristan into Fat Tristan. But yeah, the key thing and the key takeaway I wanted you all to understand from this lesson is that inpainting allows you to upload images and then allows you to manipulate particular parts of images that you like, things that you want to change, whether it's a background, whether it's a face, whether it's an actual person itself. And you can do this across multiple images. The best way, as I always advocate, is put the repetition in, learn to become a better prompt engineer, and just go wild when it comes to creativity. In this lesson, we are going to explore one of the most exciting features inside of DALL-E 2. This is outpainting. And what outpainting allows us to do is to expand images. We'll be able to take an image and ask DALL-E to generate an image that extends from the initial image. So this is a fantastic tool for firstly making your images bigger, and secondly creating a more detailed and intricate larger design. Here is an example on the DALL-E 2 website of how they have expanded the famous painting Girl with a Pearl Earring by Johannes Vermeer. And as you can see, the initial painting was the girl in the center of the screen with just a dark background. But by using DALL-E 2, they have slowly expanded this painting, adding her in a full body and adding in her entire environment, including this beautiful Dutch kitchen. You can see how this process works. What we will do is slowly add new squares to the original image that are overlapping. So let's give this a go and hop into DALL-E 2. The first thing I'm going to do is upload an image, and the image I'm going to go with is of Andrew Tate with the Rolls Royce behind him. Now, normally you could crop your image, which gives you the square that DALL-E 2 uses to generate images. However, for this particular exercise, I'm going to skip the cropping. So I start with a larger image, click place here, and I straight away enter the edit image user interface. What I'm gonna do to begin with is actually erase the background and just leave Andrew Tate in the center of the image. So here I'm using in painting techniques. I'll try and get as close to Andrew as possible. Again, using the slider on the right hand side to reduce the size of the brush. So for my prompts, I'll use post-apocalyptic backdrop, and I might include something like world on fire. And I want to go with that whole theme of the world around Andrew Tate is burning, and he is here, the savior, to save those who are being enslaved by the Matrix. Let's see what DALL-E 2 comes out with. So what you'll essentially have on the generation frame is 4 options. So if you come down here, you'll be able to hit right and see the different variations that you could potentially accept. I don't necessarily like any of them, so I'm going to cancel the generation and then I'm going to regenerate and see what DALL-E 2 gives us. And I'll most likely keep doing this until I find something that I'm actually happy with. So here's another 4. Perhaps we could work with this. Let's work with this. So I'm going to accept that. Now, what we want to do in terms of outpainting is I'm going to zoom out of this editing UI, and you can do this in the bottom right hand corner. And then from there, I'm going to select add generation frame. Now, what this basically does is give me a square that I can place anywhere on my artboard and allow the picture to be expanded. What I tend to find is that you want at least 15% overlap from the existing image to allow DALL-E 2 to create a theme amongst the generation frames that you are creating. So let's start with the right hand side, and I'm actually going to keep the exact same prompts and hit generate. And there you have it. We have another 4 potential images we can select from. I don't actually like any of them, so I'm going to cancel, and I might remove from my prompt world on fire and perhaps just stick with post-apocalyptic backdrop. Now, I'm just doing this really quickly for you. You want to go in more depth in your prompts, really fine-tune what you actually want, and then hit generate. So here we go, another 4 potential images. I like this one because you can see the continuation of this smoke cloud behind Andrew, and then almost this dystopia type of feeling of burning. Not entirely sure what is burning. However, I like the concept of it being a painting behind Andrew Tate, so I'm going to accept that. And then I'll go ahead and hit generate frame, and I'll look at something on the left side of Andrew. And what I'm actually going to do is pull it more than 15%. I'll get it closer to Andrew himself. Keep the same prompt again. I'm going to hit generate and see what DALL-E 2 does. So there we go, another 4 potential frames. I think I might go with this one. Hit accept. And what I actually want to show you now is the ability to use in painting in a specific way. Let's just say I put this in a position that hits all of the 3 frames that we've got underneath, and I change the prompt to post-apocalyptic backdrop sky burning and hit generate. So we've got another 4 options. So that one there really works, right? And it almost feels like there's some sort of ship or, I don't know, building that's on fire and Andrew Tate is walking away from it. I'm going to accept that. But what I want to actually show you is if we hit the eraser tool, you can't erase objects outside the generation frame that you've created. If, for example, you was to erase something that's within the frame, even if it overlaps the previous 3 frames. So let's go around this area here. So I'm just going to leave the same prompt in post-apocalyptic backdrop, hit generate. And what I wanted to show you is that only the area that I've erased within the generation frame has any type of prompt applied to it. So you can see here outside, I did some erasing on the left frame and then also on the right frame. Neither of those two have been filled by DALL-E 2. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is start this again. Okay, so we've got this post-apocalyptic backdrop of the sky burning, and it almost looks like Andrew Tate is standing there. The world around him is crashing, it's burning down. Obviously, as mentioned previously, I'd go into more depth at looking at particular prompts, regenerating backgrounds, and look into building a theme and style that I'd actually be interested in. I've just done this to show you the power of DALL-E 2 in terms of expanding an image, and I've kept the prompts the same throughout. But you can see how DALL-E 2 has managed to piece together a background based on the same prompts, allowing you to create themes throughout your generated frames. Now, one last thing before we close this lesson, make sure you download your image. You can do that by going over here in the top right hand corner of the screen, hit download, and you'll get the PNG file. We're going to explore in this lesson some of the advanced outpainting techniques. We're going to take 2 images, upload them into DALL-E 2 and merge them together. So over in DALL-E 2, I'm going to hit upload an image. I'll pick this image here of Andrew Tate in the desert, skip cropping, place here. Then over in the editing user interface for DALL-E 2, I'm just going to zoom out. And what you'll find is at the bottom, there is a button which you can click that says upload image. I'll hit this button and I now will upload another image, and I'll make it of Tristan in the desert, an actual different desert. And what I'll do is reduce the size of the image to make it somewhat similar, and I'll ensure there's a gap between the 2 images, and I'm gonna hit place here. Now with my add generation frame, I'm gonna place it between the 2 of them, and then I'll take my eraser and I'll basically remove all this dead space between the 2 of them. And what I'll do is, in terms of the prompts, I'll keep it really simple. Desert landscape, stock photo maybe, UHD. Hit generate, and what this should do is DALL-E should fill in the gap between the 2 to merge the photos with something that is similar to both of the backgrounds. So here we go. We've got a few options here. I'm gonna go with the first one, even though that's probably not my preference, but the other ones seem to have a straight line down the middle. Not what I'm actually looking for. I'm looking for this merged type of image, so it looks almost like a small type of mud pyramid behind them. But let's accept, and what I'll do going forward is start playing around with this add generation frame and see what we can build off the back of the 2 pictures. So I can carry on playing around with this picture, this image here. I most likely will need to adjust my prompts to get better merge between these two images. But I just want to quickly address something, right? So looking back at my credits, I'm currently on 49. And throughout me filming these lessons on DALL-E 2, I believe I've purchased at least 8 sets of credits. And that's because of the size of the frame we are playing around with. And this is something worth mentioning. The smaller the frame of the image, so let's just say I took this image here, which is currently 960 by 1280. The smaller it is, less cost of the credits you will use. So always keep that in mind when trying to play around and merge with images. Now, geez, this is where I believe DALL-E 2 and some of the AI generators fall flat on their face. Personally, I believe I could do a better job. No, in fact, I know I could do a better job of merging these two pictures together using Photoshop. Now, majority of people will actually do this, download it, and then tinker with the image within Photoshop. You could actually end up spending a large amount of time trying to merge the middle of the image with these two different images, because as you've noticed, one of these images is quite warm and the other image is quite cold in terms of tones, and you'd have to go down the route of prompting your words whilst erasing the center of the image to make sure that the image itself flows in a great manner. You can waste a large amount of credits just doing something as simple as this. So whilst AI art is good, we also need to understand that this is still a new technology. So the key thing is to understand that you can merge two images together. You need to ensure that you play around with the prompts, get exactly what you're looking for. And honestly, it can be quite expensive when you're just generally exploring. That's why it's always good to have a theme in mind. Think about what you exactly want to execute. I'm just playing around and showing you the features and techniques of DALL-E 2. When you do come to explore these features, generally start with something that you want to achieve, and then from there you can adjust your prompts as you go along. In each of the models, DALL-E 2, Midjourney, and Stable Diffusion, I will try my best to give you some third-party tools to allow you to enhance your AI art. So in this lesson, we are going to talk about the sizing in DALL-E 2 and how you can upscale your images using third-party tools. So when creating images in DALL-E 2, the images created are of the size 1024 by 1024 pixels, which is not incredibly large, but there are a couple of ways you can go around that. The first is, of course, you can use outpainting tool within DALL-E 2, and this allows you to expand your image beyond the constraints of the standard 10 by 24 image. The next thing you can do is download your image and take it into a third-party software. For this, I suggest using Enhance.io, which is an image upscaler. Over in Let's Enhance.io, I'm just going to hit start free and create a login. After creating an account, you will then be redirected to a image processing user interface, and what you want to do is drop your images by clicking browse. And I'm going to be using our very first image that we created in this module, which was the wolf synthwave style, as this was a 1024 by 1024 pixel image. So over here on the right hand side you have a set of options. However, I won't be deep diving them because what I've found is the default options on Let's Enhance.io are the best options you can choose. So what are those default options? Essentially, you will 2x the size of your image. So what you want to do is go to the bottom of the screen and click start processing. And over here, you can see that the image is being upscaled and will be ready in a few minutes. And there you have it. Before, the image was 1024 by 1024 px, and now it's 2048 by 2048. So I'm just going to download this. So if I just open the images side by side and zoom in on the synthwave sun in this particular image, you can see the original DALL-E 2 versus the upscaled version, and Let's Enhance does a really great job of upscaling the image. The only thing worth noting is that Let's Enhance.io only gives you 10 free credits, which is essentially 10 upscales. However, the packages they offer are relatively cheap. I think it's something along the lines of 50 cents per image per upscale, which is not that bad. So let's hop into the next video where I will show you another third-party tool that can help your AI art. In this lesson, I'm going to go through some tips and tricks for getting better faces inside of DALL-E 2. One of the main issues you might run into inside of DALL-E 2 is the problem with faces. And one of the best prompts you can add into this is to make sure you're using the word symmetrical face. This can make all the difference in creating a face that has symmetrical features, which is one of the major distortions that happens within DALL-E 2. With that being said, I want to introduce you to a face correction third-party tool which can help make a massive difference when creating faces within DALL-E 2. So let's hop over to DALL-E 2, and currently in my prompts I've put 30mm photo of a man wearing a suit smoking a cigar in the style of Lee Jeffries, and I'm going to select this middle one here. What I would do is download this image, then I'd go over to arc.tencent.com. This is a face restoration tool whereby I've uploaded the image into the face restoration user interface, and what it does is allow you to see the before and after, so you can see clearly the difference between the before and after. And I think this is a really great tool. So if you need to clean up faces produced by DALL-E 2, the main thing to do is to include in your prompt the word symmetrical, and then for further face restoration head over to arc.tencent.com. So this concludes our journey within DALL-E 2. Now going forward, we will dive into Midjourney, and then from Midjourney we will then move on to Stable Diffusion. Each of these artificial intelligence generation tools have their own unique properties. I personally favor Midjourney, and I'm really excited to teach you about it. So I look forward to seeing you over in that module. Welcome to the lessons on Midjourney. I know you're all super excited about this, so I'm not going to waste any time, but before we do get started, I want to make one quick note. When Midjourney was first released, and up until this point, it had a free tier you could use to get started with, and it equated to around about 25 free image creations. But recently, Midjourney announced a temporary suspension of that free tier. Midjourney has stated that the suspension is temporary once they kind of decide what they want to do with the platform. However, for the benefit of learning, I've gone ahead and subscribed to the Pro plan. That way I can show you all the benefits that Midjourney has to offer. All right, let's get started. So what you currently can see on the screen is the homepage of www.midjourney.com. And if you're coming here from watching the previous DALL-E 2 lessons, then you'll be able to understand that Midjourney also works in a similar way, which is prompt engineering. Or a simpler way of understanding this is text to image AI. Now, when you come over to Midjourney's home screen, they don't necessarily do a great job of explaining what Midjourney is. You're greeted by this kind of X jittery display. So what I'm going to do to try and explain things is go over to the showcase, which is down here on the left-hand side of the screen. So in the context of AI art, or this module or these lessons, it's all about the process of entering text and generating images as a result. Let's pick an image to try and Darth Vader image here. The text that was used was Darth Vader traced in neon light, dynamic composition, and dramatic lighting, darkcore, minimalistic. So when the user entered in that text, Midjourney AI generated this image as a result. Now the category of AI itself is a lot broader than just text to image. There are things like text to video, text to text. There's a lot of different ways to use artificial intelligence to generate new creations. But Midjourney itself is probably one of the biggest artificial intelligence art creation players in the space. That is simply because it produces very impressive results. They're always making updates, and in fact the user interface really updates quite a bit. So in the next lesson I'll go through how you can toggle between different versions of Midjourney and how you actually use the Discord interface to communicate with the Midjourney bot. before we get into our first prompt, I actually want to interject with a little bit of a side note here. I'm going to be doing this a couple of times throughout the course. I've been using Midjourney for quite some time, and one of the things I'll say is that they come out with new versions very frequently. Now, at the time of recording, Midjourney is on version 5.1, which isn't fully featured. And that's kind of the thing with Midjourney. When they release new versions, they aren't always fully featured compared to the previous version. Now, you might get better image results with the newer version, but you might not actually have all the bells and whistles of the older versions. For example, when we reach the lesson on upscaling, I'll most likely interject again with a note and talk about the upscaling differences between version 4 and 5. And that could actually be different between 5 and 6 and 7 and so on. So I'll make sure throughout these lessons, I'll just come in with a little note about versions and just some different things that are going on at the time of recording. With all that being said, let's get into Midjourney. Now, Midjourney is actually on the Discord server. So in order to do this, you would have Discord loaded, and on midjourney.com, you would literally go down to the bottom right hand of the screen where you can see join the beta. Click that. This will then obviously open your Discord, or you might have Discord already open in the background. I am not planning to teach you Discord. You should know this. Those who are legacy HU students, you should already know how to use Discord quite proficiently. And there's multiple YouTube videos of how to work your way around Discord. So you're greeted by this bot, which is the Midjourney bot, and you can just go ahead and click accept invite. So with Discord open, you'll have the Midjourney server on the top left hand corner. Now, you don't want to be overwhelmed by everything that's going on within the Midjourney server. It does look quite complicated, but I wouldn't worry too much. Essentially, you have your usual info, announcements and things that are happening, support, and then you have your newcomers rooms, which is probably the most important for you at this point. Then you may or may not have certain features that I'm scrolling through and showing here, depending on what package or what subscription you are with Midjourney. The key thing is the newcomer rooms, which usually when you join, you're allocated into different rooms. So I've got 42, 12, and 72. Now, I wouldn't necessarily worry about the numbers that you may have. They tend to be all different depending on where Midjourney allocates you within their server. So we started this lesson talking about settings. And what I actually want to do is just straight away off the bat teach you how you can go about adjusting your settings within Midjourney. So over in the newcomer rooms, I'm just going to go ahead into the message bar and type /settings. Hit enter again, and you can see the Midjourney bot has now provided me with a set of options where I can adjust particular settings. So currently I'm set on Midjourney version 5.1, and what I'm going to do is switch over to Midjourney version 4, just so I have all of the fully featured settings I want. And then from there, you can have different styles and different modes. These are things I'll talk to and explore with you later on. But that's how you go about changing your settings within Midjourney. So now that we're all set up, let's go ahead and start our first prompt. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to create our first prompt. Now, what you're seeing here is because we are in the newbie room within Midjourney's Discord, we're actually seeing other people's creations pop on the screen, and you're kind of in the mix with other people and also learning how to use Midjourney. And so you can scroll through and see what other people are creating. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and in our first message, what I'll do is just quickly write test. And you can see there is my message that's popped up in Discord. But in order to generate an image, we have to give a prefix for a special command to start the image generation process. So to do that, you actually have to type / and you can see we've got this menu with a bunch of commands. And what I want you to do is write imagine. And I'm going to go ahead and click this command, which gives us this prompt box. And then from there, we can type in whatever we want. In this case, let's start with something super simple. I'm going to type ocean and hit enter. Now, if you're new doing this, most likely you'll get a pop-up asking you to approve the terms of service. Go ahead and do that. But what you can see is on my prompt, and I have to scroll up sometimes because other prompts are being generated, but Midjourney's done a pretty fast job of creating 4 images for our prompt. prompt. So if I just go ahead and click this highlighted section that's specific to us, you can see we have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And what I can start to do is basically start to work with these images and make them high resolution, isolate them, and those type of things. So there you have it, our very first prompt in Midjourney. Let's talk about upscaling in the next lesson.
How did this do? Lando, how did you... Alright, so...
So the first thing to note when upscaling is the original image that we've been given with the 4 quadrants. This is 1024 by 1024 pixels. Therefore, each image within the quadrants is, I believe, around about 512 by 512 pixels. Don't quote me on that. I've not done the maths. However, the idea here is that Midjourney is giving you 4 examples based on the prompts you've given Midjourney for you to then go ahead and explore which of the 4 images you'd be interested in. Now, me personally, I genuinely like the image in quadrant 4. So what I'm going to do is just click off of this image and go back into Discord. And you can see on the user interface, we have U1, 2, 3, and 4. And we also have V1, 2, 3, and 4. And we'll get into the V, which stands for variations, a bit later on. But essentially the U stands for upscale. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just click U4 so I can upscale the 4th image in the quadrant. And you can see I've clicked there and the U4 has highlighted. So if I scroll right back down, you can see it's starting to process the upscale, which is currently at 40%. I can also go ahead and cancel the job if I want to. I'm going to leave it for now and let's see an upscale rendered version of the 4th quadrant. So Discord does get a bit jumpy. As you can see, the image is gone. I probably need to scroll down, which I have, and there it is. You can see I've now got an upscaled version of the 4th image. If I click that, this is now 1024 by 1024. The same same size as the 4 quadrants. However, it's just one image, which is relatively a good size. However, there are some techniques I will go through later down the line if you want to go ahead and expand and upscale even further, as you might be using them for thumbnails or you might be using them for print or anything along those lines. So what I can do here is click open in browser, and this will essentially open it into another screen as a .png file. Right click and I can hit save image as. So let's ignore that for now. I'm just going to go back into Discord, and there's something I want to go ahead and note. We are currently in version 4. If you remember, we changed the settings to version 4. Now within version 4 there are a set of features that are not available within version 5. So I'll go through what these features are later on, but I just wanted to explain that to you. And for demonstration purposes, let me just show you what I mean. So I'm going to type in /settings, hit enter, and I'll change my version to version 5, then / imagine prompt. I'll type ocean in again. So I'm just waiting for this to get rendered by Midjourney. So here you can see the 4 quadrant images of version 5 using the same prompt. The images are different, but that's not what I wanted to show you. So let's go ahead and upscale the 4th quadrant. I'll do that by clicking U4 here. And so you can see over here in version 5, I don't have the additional features or options that I have in version 4. And this just relates back to me mentioning in one of our previous lessons where I've said I will come in and try and explain that between different versions or the latest updates that happen with Midjourney, sometimes you don't get it fully featured until that version itself has been fully mastered. So in the next lesson, let's talk a little bit about variations and basically making small tweaks to our images. So in this lesson, we're going to talk about the light scale and beta upscale options. And just to make things a little bit more interesting, what I thought I'd do is create a more detailed prompt. So over in the newcomer rooms, I'm just going to hit / imagine, click prompt, type in my prompt and hit enter. Now, I don't want you to get caught up on the actual prompt. It's something I've been working on and I've created, and I will go through the detail of how you can go about creating a prompt on the same level as this, if not better. And there we have it. Midjourney has created 4 images based on Aztec style warrior. Now I've been engineering this prompt and I know it looks extremely better in version 5.1. But as I've mentioned throughout these lessons so far, version 5.1 is not fully featured. I will show you the exact same prompts in version 5 towards the end of this lesson. So out of the 4 images in this quadrant, I'm most likely going to go with the 3rd image, as this is more along the lines of what I was imagining, which is an Aztec warrior with a few warriors around him, and it looks like they're about to enter battle. We've previously mentioned the interface, and what I'm going to do is just create different versions of the 3rd image in that quadrant. And what you'll start to realize is that the versions do tend to have differences. So there you have it. By clicking V3, we have another 4 quadrants of variations relating back to the 3rd image. I like the facial expressions on the 3rd image here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit upscale 3 or U3 in order to upscale this image and get the light and beta upscale options. Now in version 4, when Midjourney produces the upscale, we have a set of options on the user interface. Obviously, if you hit make variations, you will generate another 4 image variations of this particular image. And then you'll basically go through the whole process of 4 quadrant images, selecting another image, upscaling, and continuing to do that process until you find an image you're quite happy with. Now, I want you to notice the upscale is still a slight variation of what we originally chose to upscale. And this is just part of the AI art generation process. There will be differences each time you select a particular feature that you want to apply to the image. So what I want to do is talk about light upscale and beta upscale. If I click on beta upscale, what you're basically telling Midjourney is you want to upscale the image even further. However, you want it to use the latest algorithm that Midjourney has. So whatever algorithm they have in development, by clicking beta upscale, you will get an upscale version with that algorithm. Let's go ahead and try it. So there we go. Here's the example created by Midjourney using the beta upscale. We also have the option to light upscale. So I'm going to just quickly find the original upscale image, the one that wasn't beta upscale processed, and I'm going to hit light upscale. So there we have it with the light upscale feature applied to the image. Now, me personally, I don't necessarily believe there's that much of a difference between the features, but it's worth noting if I click on this image now, now, hit open in browser, right click, save image as, save this image. And then if I open my downloads folder and right click on the image, hit get info, you can see the dimensions here are 1792 by 1152. So definitely a much larger image by the 1024 by 1024 pixels. Not really groundbreaking stuff. But what I do want to actually do is show you the difference in version 5. So I'm just going to quickly change the settings. I'm going to quickly switch over to Midjourney version 5.1 actually. And I'm going to go ahead, hit / imagine prompt. I'm going to put in the same prompt just so I can show you the difference in quality, or perhaps I should say in AI art generation between the different versions. And there you have it, 4 images produced in version 5.1 of Midjourney. Now I'm telling you, version 5.1 is absolutely badass. Now don't worry, further in the lessons I will explain to you some of the prompt engineering I've used to obtain this type of imagery. I guess the point of this lesson is to kind of ask the question, the features on version 4, do we really need to use them? I don't know. Nevertheless, that was a quick lesson on the light and beta upscaling redo. And in the next lesson, we will talk about the re-rolling feature.
Place to work. I don't know how you feel about it. You want to be standing there, have people coming in all day going, I need knives. I need more knives. You have any bigger knives? I like a bigger knife, a big, long, sharp knife. That's what I'm in the market for. I like it really sharp. You have one with hooks in it. You have it like serrated. Just the kind of knife I love. I need one I can throw. I need another one I can just hack away with. Do you have anything like that?
Before we dive deeper into prompt engineering within Midjourney, there's 2 more features I'd like to show you. They're fairly quick to understand and they're fairly simple to use, but can help massively on your art creation journey. So I'll cover these very quickly in this lesson and the next. The first is the reroll tool. Before I show you how to use the reroll tool and the purpose of it, by now in the Discord server, the original images or any of the images that I've created most likely have disappeared amongst the number of generations that are being created by different members within Midjourney. You can go over to the search function in Discord, which is located towards the top right hand side, but there's an even quicker way to find the images that you've created. Now, if you go back over to midjourney.com, on the bottom right of the page, you'll see a sign in button. Now, if you click this sign in button, what this will basically do is take you to your Midjourney profile. You may need to authorize your Discord and Midjourney server together. Just go ahead and do that. And you'll end up at a page that looks something like this. Essentially, this is your Midjourney profile. So on this account so far, I've created 47 jobs. I can see every single one of my jobs. What I can go ahead and do is hover on one of my jobs, hit the 3 dotted icons, which opens a set of options. And if I go over to copy, I can see the job ID. If I click job ID, what this has basically done is copy an ID within the Midjourney server that is specific to that job. Now, if I head back over to Discord and in any of the rooms, if I hit /show, click job ID and then paste, I've now got the job ID that's associated to that particular image I've found in my own Midjourney profile. Hit enter, it will send a command to the Midjourney bot, and there you have it. It's brought back the original images that were created within Midjourney. Now, in terms of the reroll tool, which is located here underneath the images on the Midjourney interface, and essentially it looks like a recycle icon. What it basically does is send a command to Midjourney to say, the images that have been created, I'm not necessarily happy with them. I would prefer another 4 potential images for me to play around with. So if I go ahead and click the reroll tool, Midjourney will now use the same prompts to bring up another 4 images. And there you have it. We have a new set of images which have been re-rolled. Again, they all look amazing. I think the prompt that I've created, it took me a little while to create. It's a really, really good prompt. And we will go through how you can engineer great prompts for Midjourney post the next lesson. So there you have it, the re-roll tool. I can go ahead and click re-roll again, and Midjourney will then process another 4 images based on the prompt.
Who do I like? I like Art Vandelay. Art Vandelay? He's an obscure writer. He's from the Village. What's he written? Venetian Blinds. I got news for you. I'm than you are. Hey, why don't you get a New Year's Day and watch some football?
Where's my drink?
As you've been watching these lessons, you're most likely asking yourself, well, how do I go about creating a single prompt and ensuring it's exactly what I want? There's a feature within Midjourney that allows you to change the prompt or build a prompt, so to speak, and that's called the remix tool. So over in our newcomer room, I'm going to hit /settings, hit enter, and you'll see within our settings there is a mode called the remix mode. I'm going to go ahead and click this mode, and I'm going to build or show you how I would go about building a prompt. So let's start off with something very simple. /imagine prompt, and for my prompt I'm going to use Roman Centurion Warrior. Hit enter, let Midjourney do its thing. Okay, so there we go. We've got our 4 quadrants, a Roman Centurion Warrior. Now where the remix mode comes into play is when you want to create a variation and you then want to add to your prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and hit V4 to generate variations of the 4th quadrant image that's been given to me by Midjourney. I'll hit V4. Now, what you'll see is this pop-up box appear, which is the remix prompt pop-up box. And what it allows me to do is change the prompt that I've used initially. So here you can see I've got Roman Centurion Warrior version 4. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is add more detail to the prompt. So Roman Centurion Warrior in the middle of an epic battle. Hit submit. And there we go. We've got a re-roll of another 4 images, which have been expanded in relation to the new prompt that we've added. I don't really like any of them, so I'm going to go ahead and re-roll all 4 of them just by hitting the re-roll button at the bottom. And again, I'm given the option to change the prompt. So I'll go ahead and add photorealistic dramatic shot. So the entire prompt back to front, Roman Centurion Warrior in the middle of an epic battle, photorealistic dramatic shot. Hit submit. Again, Midjourney has spat out another 4 images for us to potentially use. I still don't necessarily like this. I feel like there's no motion or feeling of a battle taking place. So I'm going to go ahead and create variations against the 4th quadrant image. I'll do that by clicking V4. Once again, I'm now able to change the prompt. I've increased my prompt to color epic cinematograph of a fearless attacking Roman Centurion Warrior in the middle of an epic battle, photo realistic dramatic shot. Now, for those of you who don't know what this word here means, essentially that is the motion captured on camera, and that's what I'm looking for within this particular image. I want some type of motion of a battle taking place with this Roman Centurion Warrior, and I've also added these set of prompts here. I don't want you to worry about those just yet. In the next lesson, I'll start to explain to you what these double dashes mean, but let's go ahead and hit submit. Midjourney's picked up the job, and let's give it a few seconds for it to produce. And there we have it. Midjourney has given me another set of 4 quadrant images that I'm actually quite impressed with. I really like the image in the 1st quadrant and the 4th quadrant. I might go ahead and create some variations of the 4th quadrant. So hit V4. I'll get the remix prompt up, but I don't want to change anything, so I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. Okay, I don't necessarily like those. I'm going to re-roll the entire image again. Go ahead and hit the re-roll tool. Submit. There we have it. On this re-roll, I'm really impressed with all the images. In fact, I like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd quadrant images. Definitely the 3rd quadrant image I could use, and the 2nd. But I just want to quickly show you the ability to use the remix tool to add prompts into your initial prompt and essentially build or engineer a final prompt that you can then generate images that are truly remarkable. Okay, so we finally get to prompt crafting within Midjourney. I know you're all excited to go through how I generate certain prompts and the mindset behind each aspect of them. I'll try and explore everything from styles all the way to camera perspective, all the way to the double dashes that you see in terms of quality, aspect ratio, etc. However, before we get into this, I want to move away from all the noise that is happening within Midjourney. So throughout the previous lessons, you've noticed, and even now you can see on the screen, there are so many people within the Midjourney server that are putting their own requests in, and sometimes it can be difficult scrolling up and down trying to find your particular prompt request. So what you can do is bring the Midjourney bot into your own server. You could do this really simply by creating your own server in Discord. Over on the left hand side you can see a plus button, which is add a server. I'm going to go ahead and click this, and then from there I can click create my own, and I'll select for me and my friends. You can of course customize your server. I'm just going to go ahead and click create. So here we are. I've got my own server. And what I'm actually going to do is jump back into the Midjourney server by clicking the Midjourney icon on the left hand side, and then go over to the right hand side where I can see the Midjourney bot. Click this and hit add to server. From here, I can then add the Midjourney bot to the server by hitting the drop down menu. I'll click the new server that I've just created, hit continue, and of course I'm going to go ahead and authorize all the permissions that Midjourney needs within that server. Click authorize, validate that I am a human. Success. Let's hop over to the server. Here in my empty server, you can see on the right hand side I've got the Midjourney bot added to the server. This now allows me to communicate with the Midjourney bot one-to-one. So let's go ahead and hit /imagine, click prompt. I'll go ahead and use our prompt from the previous lesson, and there you have it. Midjourney has responded to the prompt within the server that I've just created, and there's no noise from anybody else. So going forward, as we explore prompt crafting from beginner all the way to mastery, we will be using this server to communicate with the Midjourney bot one-to-one.
Well, it's like it's coming in and out. I don't know.
So as we explore prompt crafting, what I want to do is strip back everything in terms of prompts and teach you different methodologies and give you an insight into creativity where words are concerned. And in a similar way to the DALL-E 2 lessons, I'll be exploring different elements within a prompt that can then lead you to generate your own prompt. The entire AI art mastery should be coupled with the AI prompt engineering module. Coupling these together will then allow you to understand and formulate great prompts. So without any more delay, in this lesson, I want to talk about how we can explore styles and how slight tweaks within your prompt can change those styles. I'm going to hop into our own server that we created in the previous lesson so we can talk to Midjourney directly without any noise. /imagine prompt. And for my prompt, I'm going to be using a Polaroid of Donald Trump from the 1990s. Now, let's hit enter and let Midjourney process this prompt. But just looking at the prompt holistically, we've got a Polaroid, which is a style, we've got a subject, which is Donald Trump, and we've given Midjourney a specific year, the 1990s. So if we have a look at the 4 image quadrants, Midjourney does an excellent job of creating somewhat of a Polaroid image of Donald Trump. They genuinely look like Donald Trump, and I quite like the one on the far right hand side. But let's go ahead and change the prompt, /imagine prompt, and this time I'm going to actually change the year to the 1970s. Let Midjourney do its thing, and there we have it. Straight away we can see a difference in the style just by changing the year. Particularly the second quadrant definitely looks like a younger Donald Trump, and we can even tell by the style of clothes that this is more related to the 1970s. If I go ahead and create another prompt and use the year 2010, Midjourney does an amazing job of showing a Donald Trump that we're all currently used to seeing on screen. And it's also worth noting we can pick up the different styles of Polaroid within each of these images. Let's go ahead and drop the word Polaroid and do Donald Trump from the 2010s. /imagine prompt, Control V, hit enter. You should be able to see a clear distinctive difference between the Polaroid prompt and the prompt without the Polaroid. So that's another way that Midjourney can add a particular style or effect to a portrait in this case, because we're using Donald Trump. And we will dive deeper into portraits, and majority of the lessons you'll see me using portraits as examples. I genuinely believe Midjourney's power is within creating portraits. Look at this one on the bottom left. That could genuinely pass as an image of Donald Trump. So let's go ahead and use the same prompt, but let's swap Donald Trump out with Elon Musk. Whilst Midjourney is doing that, I'll also drop the word Polaroid and prompt Midjourney to do an Elon Musk from the 2010s. So we can see from the Polaroid prompt of Elon Musk, Midjourney's done a great job in the bottom left-hand corner to pick up the idea of a Polaroid styled image. Again, with the top left or image from the first quadrant, they're pretty good. Genuinely looks like Elon Musk. And when we've dropped the word Polaroid, Midjourney moves over to a more open style, or I should say creative style, as you can see here in the 4th image quadrant, and that's simply because we haven't give any stylized direction to Midjourney. Rather, we've just asked for a Elon Musk from the 2010s. So hopefully from that you can see just by tweaking the dates we can get different versions of our subject, whilst also adding the word Polaroid and removing the word Polaroid can change the image that we receive. And the reason why I want to point this out, particularly when we're exploring styles within Midjourney, discrete information or discrete changes within your prompt can have a great effect on your Midjourney image. I've noticed this quite a lot within the Midjourney community. People write bulks and bulks of prompts, hyper realistic, 4K, 8K. 9 times out of 10, that's not even required. Rather, if you can pinpoint the exact detail and have a shorter prompt, Midjourney will do a great job of picking up the style that you're looking for, as we've seen throughout this lesson just by changing the year. Continuing on with our exploration into prompts, I want to look at camera perspectives and lighting. Let's first kick off with camera perspectives. / imagine prompt, and the prompt I'll be using is Cyberpunk City bird's eye view. I'm also going to go ahead and type in another prompt, but instead of bird's eye view, I'm going to write street view. And just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and put in another prompt. We'll use Elon Musk in Cyberpunk City street view. So the first two prompts have come back, and as you can see, they have a very similar style, that Cyberpunk City-esque, but the first one is exactly how I imagined it. It's a bird's eye view looking top down, almost as if you're in an aeroplane. And then the second prompt that we used is a street view, where again you get this Cyberpunk City style feeling, along with some crowds in the images and vehicles in the street. Midjourney is also giving us back our third prompt, which is Elon Musk in a Cyber City street view, and I really like this, particularly this third and fourth quadrant. Nevertheless, what I wanted to do is demonstrate that by changing the camera perspective in your prompts, you can generate different fields of views for your image. And what we now can also start doing is adding in lighting. And since we're heading down this Cyberpunk City with Elon Musk, let's go ahead and bring one of our earlier styling prompts into this prompt that we're going to generate now. So once again, / imagine prompt. Rather than writing an exact date, I'm going to write future Elon Musk in Cyber City street view. Now what I'll do is go ahead and apply a lighting style. In this case, I'll go ahead and write rim lighting. Hit enter, and I'll go ahead and do the same, but rather than rim lighting, I will use 3-point lighting. Let's go ahead and put another one in, and rather than 3-point lighting, I'll go ahead and write key lighting. Okay, so here we've got our 3 different versions with lighting applied to them. So the first being rim lighting, whereby the source of the light is coming from the background of the character. So you can say this is achieved by the image in quadrant 3. Then we've got 3-point lighting, which of course is one of my favorite lighting. This involves a lighting from the back, a soft light, and a key light, the 3-point lighting setup. And I do believe the bottom 2 images, quadrant 3 and 4, do achieve the 3-point lighting. And you can see in quadrant 3, we've almost got this Tesla style of logo in the background on the building, which is great. And then finally, we've got key lighting, which involves a primary source of lighting being at a 45-degree angle from the subject. So if you look here in quadrant 2, this image has this great lighting on the side of Elon's face. I genuinely think that's a great use of key lighting. And I guess you can also say the same on quadrant 4. However, with that being said, I guess it's kind of hard to include lighting when the prompt involves Cyberpunk City. As you all know, the cyberpunk style relies on a lot of neon lighting, but I think Midjourney overall does a really great job. Now, you don't necessarily need to include lighting styles themselves. You could go for lighting moods. Let me show you what I mean. Taking the exact same prompt, and rather than rim lighting, I'm going to go ahead and put gloomy lighting. Let's do another one. This time, let's do sunlight. And there you have it. You can see the complete juxtaposition in the lighting. Here in the first image, we do kind of have this more dark, serious, gloomy style of lighting, especially in quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. I really like those 2 images. And on the flip side, where we've put our sunlight prompt, you can see this more uplifting lighting starting to bleed through the images, particularly in quadrant 3, also with quadrant 2. So there you have it. Playing around with the camera perspective and lighting prompts can give you a different variation within your Midjourney art. In this lesson, I'd like to introduce parameters to our Midjourney art. As we continue to explore different styles, we can start adding parameters to ensure that we have a set boundary that we are enforcing on Midjourney's algorithm. So for this lesson, I'm going to keep it really simple and I'm going to introduce aspect ratios. If I take one of our previous examples, and I quite like the future Elon Musk in Cyber City Street View with the gloomy lighting, and I begin my prompt, imagine prompt, I'll paste in our original prompt, and then from there I'm going to use a double dash, which signifies a parameter. Where aspect ratio is concerned, the parameter you need is AR. You'll then follow with a space, and you want to include your aspect ratio. So for example, if we wanted to do a short, it'd be 9:16. Hit enter, I'll do another one, and this time I'll do it 16:9. Let's go ahead and put another one in, and we can do it 3:2. Midjourney is giving us our results back, and straight away you can see 9:16, perfect for a vertical setup. However, I'd most likely re-roll these because they don't necessarily look like Elon. Then we've got our 16:9, so perfect for horizontal videos. I really like this second quadrant image, and as you can see throughout our images, we're starting to get this beautiful cyberpunk themed story or narrative that we could create. Here's our re-roll of the 9:16. So the third quadrant image looks really good. And what I'd like to do is explore color. Now, color is really important, particularly in this scenario, because Cyber City does scream the whole pink, reds, and this type of neon glow effect. So let's see how we can manipulate this. I'm going to stick with the 9:16 aspect ratio parameters and hit /image prompt. And I've pasted our prompt, which is future Elon Musk in Cyber City, street view, gloomy lighting. Then from there, I'm literally going to insert two colors, green and yellow. Let's see what that does. There we have it. Midjourney's actually taken Elon's Tesla Model S and utilized the color yellow, while simultaneously you can see the elements of green within this Cyber City punk style. Let's go ahead and play around with a few more colors. I'm also going to change the aspect ratio to 16:9. Let's do red and blue. We could do another one in purple and orange. And we could do one more. Let's pick some really different colors. If we go teal and gray, which is a fairly unusual color combo. So here are the image results based on the prompt we've given Midjourney. And we can clearly see that Midjourney has taken the color prompts and embedded them into the images. Red and blue, teal and gray, purple and orange. Now, one thing I want to point out, and I believe Midjourney does it really well, the colors themselves are still integrated into the style that we've specified. So for example, let's take teal and gray. I really like these images. Let me just quickly re-roll them. I'd love to see Elon Musk in the images, but the point I was trying to make is that the style that we've asked Midjourney to execute is Cyberpunk City, and you can see that it's actually integrated the color palette we've specified within that style. It could have easily made certain areas colored in a strong teal and gray, but rather it's taken that neon concept or style of cyberpunk and integrated into the images. I think it's done a fantastic job. Let's have a look at the re-roll. Okay, so again, probably nowhere near Elon Musk, which is fine. Let me re-roll it again. I genuinely want to get Elon Musk within this color palette. So there you have it. We have Elon Musk in the third quadrant, very Cyber City punk-esque with teal and gray color palette applied. Really happy with that. Now, what I'd like to do in the next lesson is explore another parameter, which is very interesting and almost takes the element of control that you've seen me try to execute in this video in terms of getting Elon in the image, in terms of color and style, completely out the window. So let's explore that style of prompting next.
Always providing some good acting. So Budapest never disappoint. And I think this year is going to be another epic battle. First week you never forget probably, and it was an incredible day for me and my career. I still remember the stress on the starting grid from pole position.
Quick lesson on another parameter called chaos. Now, this parameter itself is a juxtaposition because what chaos allows you to do is influence how varied the initial image grids are. Currently, the Midjourney bot is set at a default in terms of the variation it will produce when given a prompt. However, using this parameter, we're able to adjust that. So let's go ahead and give it a try so you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. So if we take our existing prompt /image image, prompt, hit paste. Then from there, I'm going to apply the parameter settings, which is double dash. And for chaos, you can do it in two ways. You can either write chaos itself, or you can just write the letter C. I'm going to write chaos, and we're going to start with 0, which is the default. And from there, I'm going to go up in all the increments so we can see exactly how applying different levels of chaos can change the image produced by the Midjourney bot. So funnily enough, Midjourney bot has come back and told me it's an invalid parameter. I could have cut this out of the edit, but I thought it's worth leaving in, just so you know that if you do ever write an incorrect parameter, you will be prompted by Midjourney to say this doesn't work. And the reasoning behind this is because I've actually spelled chaos wrong. So let's go ahead and write chaos, which is actually CAOS. Then I'm going to go ahead and insert the same prompt. However, I'm going to use chaos 10, chaos 25, chaos 50, and chaos 80. Let's let Midjourney process these prompts, and then from there we can have a look at the differences across the board when changing the chaos parameter. So Midjourney has given us our 4 quadrants or our grid images back. Where chaos 0 is concerned, it's something that we're quite familiar with as we've been building out this prompt. I really like the quadrant 3 image here of Elon Musk with a Tesla behind him in the same futuristic background, same style of lighting, no real change from our initial prompt. However, if we move over to 10, we can start to see that there's some bleeding coming in terms of a different lighting style, different camera positions, and overall it's not too off from our initial prompt. Then if we move over to 25, which is really cool, I genuinely like this Elon Musk image towards the bottom right hand corner, the 4th quadrant, but we can start to see that Midjourney is starting to play around. Each image from each of the quadrants are quite different. Then as we move into chaos 50, we can see that Midjourney is truly now exploring some level of open creativity. It's got no real guidelines. We've almost got a different style in each of the images. And then lastly, we've got chaos 80, which breaks the rules of the prompt to some extent. We still have the Cyber City style or theme. However, you really can see now Midjourney is truly exploring and playing around with the creative concept of the prompts we've given it. So if for some reason you're trying to find that creative edge that perhaps you're unable to prompt, using the chaos parameter can genuinely help and is definitely something worth exploring when creating your AI art. In this lesson, I'd like to talk about how you can merge images together, and to do this, we're going to use the blend mode function within Midjourney. So what we'll do is take 2 images from the previous prompts we used in relation to Elon Musk. For this particular prompt where we explored the chaos prompt, I want to use the images from quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. I think these could make a really great blend. So let's go ahead and hit upscale 3 and upscale 4. If I click on the image presented to me by the Midjourney bot, I can expand the image, right click and hit save image as. I'll do the same with the second image that we selected. So you can see I've got both images saved onto my desktop, and from here I want to type /blend, enter. Now this will give me an interface within my message chat where I can drag and drop or click and upload the 2 images I've just downloaded. And it doesn't necessarily need to be those particular 2 images. There could be other images that you want to work with or blend together. I've just used those 2 images for the purpose of this lesson. So let's go ahead and pop those 2 images in. With both the images uploaded, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. It's worth noting that you can also upload another 3 images. So in total, you can have 5 images that you could blend together. I'm just going to use these 2 and hit enter. And there we go. Midjourney has blended both the images together. I would probably re-roll this. However, it does captivate the themes of both the images. You've got Elon Musk, a Tesla in the image, along with this kind of Cyber City cafeteria style background. The blend mode itself is commonly used when you have a background and a foreground. That's the best way to use it. I don't necessarily use blend mode. However, there is a mode that I use within Midjourney quite frequently, and that is using an image with a prompt. So let's go ahead and explore that in the next lesson. Okay, in order to explain how we can use an image and then add an additional prompt, I'm going to go ahead and produce a prompt I've been working on in the background, which encompasses the 5 elements, which are fire, earth, water, wood, and metal. So let's go ahead and type in imagine prompt. And the prompt I'm going to be using is impressionistic oil illustration, male samurai, fire sword, black background, light armor, full body. And I'll put this in a 16:9 aspect ratio, and of course we're using version 5 of Midjourney. Now where I'm going to adapt the elements is within the sword of the samurai, so let's go ahead and hit enter for that. Let's create the next image. So imagine prompt, and I'll change the word fire in sword to water. Same again, but this time we'll use earth. Same again, and this time we'll use metal, and finally I'll be using wood. Okay, so let's have a look at the prompt. Here is the fire prompt. Then we've got the water prompt. We've got the earth prompt. We've got the metal prompt. And we've got the wood prompt. Now, looking back at all of these, besides the fire prompt, I don't necessarily think the rest of the prompts are bringing out the elements that we're looking for. And on top of that, we can notice that there's a complete variation between the type of samurai stance or whatever armor they might be in. So what we can do is start to use one of these images to then further generate the prompt that we're looking for. In this case, the elements. I quite like the images that Midjourney has produced in relation to the water element. In particular, this third quadrant image or second quadrant image, to really show off the power of a single image plus prompt. I'm going to choose the image in the second quadrant of this prompt. So I'll go ahead, hit U2 to upscale, and I'm going to click on the image, hit open in browser, and I'll copy the URL, go back into Discord, / imagine prompt, and paste the URL. /, and I'm going to type in male samurai just to keep Midjourney's algorithm on theme, and type surrounded by fire. I'm going to copy this URL, / imagine prompt, paste in the URL, and write male samurai surrounded by gusty winds, and maybe write something like tornado. Then I'll do same again, imagine prompt, paste the link in, male samurai surrounded by forest trees. Let's do the next one. So imagine prompt, paste the link in, and I'll write male samurai surrounded by metal. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to produce, but yeah. Then we can go ahead and put another prompt in for the last one, which I'm going to write male samurai surrounded by water. So we've had our first couple of images come back, and as you can tell, it's done a marvelous job of capturing the similarities of the initial image or the URL that we've used, and started to incorporate some of the prompting that we've added. So surrounded by fire, you've kind of got the samurai with the back turn, the double swords. I really like that. And also a similar situation with the gusty winds. Probably not all the way there yet. Most likely we'll take a couple of re-rolls of this image in the second quadrant. With the forest trees, we're also starting to see slight variations. However, we do still have very similar samurai style of body armor holding the 2 swords. We're starting to see these trees bleed into the image. And I think with the metal prompt, we always knew it was going to be a bit of hit and miss. Most likely requires more prompting in terms of what is being defined when I'm saying metal in the prompt. However, Midjourney still contains this strong samurai body armor with the double sword. And then the final element we've been given back, so we can see that Midjourney has encompassed the water style or water effect. And again, it still retains this samurai holding the 2 swords. I think it's pretty cool. You can see the similarities across all of the prompts in terms of the samurai. However, we get this variation when it comes to the elements. Compared to the very first prompts we did, we can see there was a mass amount of variation between the images, whereas when we've used a URL of a single image and changed the prompt, we managed to retain the same type of image. I do, however, recommend when you prompt with an image, make sure you put as much detail as possible to make sure that you get the desired effect. Since we've been looking at samurais and we're borderlining on weeb creation, I want to go ahead and introduce to you Niji mode. And to do this, I'm going to go into the settings of Midjourney. Now, within Midjourney, you have a Niji mode, which essentially is for those who are interested or focused on a anime style of creation. So you can see here in the settings, we've got our different versions of Midjourney, but we've also got two versions currently for Niji mode. I'm going to go ahead and click Niji version 5, and this will now create the suffix --Niji 5, essentially telling the Midjourney algorithm or the Midjourney bot that any prompt going forward will be in Niji mode. So let's check this out. / imagine prompt, and I'm gonna write male samurai. So you can see that we've got this really cool anime style of creation coming out of our prompts. And if your focus is on anime, this is a really great setting or parameter within Midjourney that you can use. I want to just quickly show you the difference. So if I change my settings back to Midjourney version 5, type in the exact same prompt, male samurai, and let's upscale the third quadrant on the Niji mode versus the third quadrant upscale on Midjourney version 5.1. Let me just quickly delete this so I can bring both the upscale images next to one another. So here you can clearly differentiate the two images. The first one in Niji mode is truly reminiscent of a anime style. And when we removed Niji mode, we can see that Midjourney has gone for a more photorealistic style of image. So that's another really cool parameter to keep in mind. And you can further increase the Niji mode parameter by adding the word anime within your prompt. So for example, if I write anime male samurai wielding a sword versus another prompt, which is male samurai wielding a sword. Both 4 quadrants of art are in Niji mode. However, just using the word anime can truly increase this style. So that's just a quick prompt tip. If any of you are in Niji mode, make sure you're using the word anime prior to writing your entire prompt. It's a really great way to enhance Niji mode. I really like this image up in the first quadrant, and I might actually use that for one of the AMAs.
Like, this is a great book. Some people compare this to the Bible. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. This is an amazing book about the guy that went through, this man went through the internment camps in Germany, and it's a crazy story. And he has a
The first book I tell anybody to read, how you got to fix this. That's the book I tell anybody to read. How
So far in the Midjourney series, we've looked at some prompts, we've looked at some parameters, we've looked at some basic styles. What I want to do going forward is go beyond the basics and start expanding some of the style ideas. And I want to do this so you're equipped with the most relevant and common ideas to aid in whatever your creation may be. Now, by no means am I going to go through every single style. I think that's virtually impossible. There's too many variations. However, I will give you a very high level plus prompt to understand how you can capture particular styles that you may be interested in. So the very first one I want to start with is the most common and probably the most sought after style of image within Midjourney, and that of course is portraits. Me personally, I think this is where Midjourney excels against all of the competition it might have there. It's absolutely amazing at portraits. So to go ahead and show you this, I'm going to quickly go ahead and put in a prompt of, let's just say, Spartan Warrior. By the way, before I show you the differences in the prompts, I just wanted to point out that you may have noticed in the previous lesson, Midjourney has released a version 5.2 already. So like I previously said at the very start of these lessons, the speed at which AI is moving is unbelievable. There may come a time when you may be watching this video and it's on version 10. I don't know. But what I'm always going to try and do is bring in additional lessons in the future that will explain some of the changes once they've settled down. So at this moment, I'm only going to be using version 5.1 because that is currently settled versus version 5.2 and so on and so forth. There are some cool features that have come with version 5.2, which I will touch on later down the line. However, like I said, I'll always wait for the dust to settle and then explore them. Okay, cool. So the prompt that I've actually written is in Niji mode. I'm going to go ahead and change this back to version 5.1. Hit dismiss, even though they look pretty cool in Niji mode, right? Particularly that top left one. Anyways, portraits. So / imagine prompt Spartan Warrior. Hit enter, and then I'm going to go ahead and write another prompt, but this time I'm going to go ahead and write portrait at the start and then follow up with my prompt, which is Spartan Warrior. Whilst we're waiting for that, let's do another one. So I've wrote adventurer, and then I'm going to go ahead and write another prompt which says portrait, and let's add adventurer again. Okay, so these two seem to be generating a lot quicker than our previous portrait Spartan Warrior prompt. It may be because I've missed the N off of Spartan in this particular sentence. However, it's worth noting that spelling doesn't necessarily knock off Midjourney's ability to create an image. As long as the spelling's generally okay, the AI system is competent enough to understand what you're asking for. So here we go. It started creating the image for that prompt. But let's scroll down and look at the adventurer prompt. So we can see from the very first one that we've put in is we've actually gone ahead and got a animal adventurer. We've got two female adventurers and this image of an adventurer staring out to the cliffs. So whilst these are okay, they're not really reminiscent of a portrait. However, if we look where we've put the word portrait, we now generally have a more portrait style of an adventurer, particularly the one in the fourth quadrant. That looks really good. It does depict the type of creation I would have in mind for a adventurer. We can see that the style itself is mid-torso up, and it truly fits in this portrait character design. Let's go ahead and look at the Spartan Warrior. So this actually done pretty well in terms of not applying the prompt portrait at the start. However, if we look at the actual image produced when we include the word portrait, it is very reminiscent of what a portrait should be. Again, mid-torso up, usually the character staring at the screen or maybe slightly off to the screen, and it genuinely looks like the type of art or photo that may have been taken prior to a Spartan going out to war. You can see in their face this fierce warrior type of look. So in addition to portrait styles, there's something from this I want to jump into, which is dynamic poses. Let's go ahead and look at this in the next lesson. This is going to be a very quick lesson on dynamic poses. Now, we've already explored the portrait style. What I want to do is use the exact same prompt, which is adventurer in this case. And let's go ahead and use the Spartan warrior prompt. And what I'm just going to do is add the word dynamic pose into the prompt. So / imagine prompt adventurer dynamic pose. We'll go ahead and do the same for Spartan warrior dynamic pose. At the same time, let's upscale the 4th quadrant image for portrait adventurer, and we can go ahead and upscale the 2nd image in the Spartan warrior portrait. Okay, so we've got our 2 images back. Let's first look at the Spartan warrior, as this has come back first, and it actually looks like Midjourney has created a statue-like Spartan warrior with dynamic poses on. So we're going to go ahead and adjust this in a short while, but let's have a quick look at the adventurer dynamic pose. And this was more of the type of style I was looking for in the 4th quadrant. We've now got an adventurer who is in a state of motion, which is completely different to the static style of a portrait. And what we can go ahead and do now is blend these 2 prompts together. So if I put imagine prompt portrait adventurer dynamic pose, hit enter, and then let's do the same for the Spartan warrior. So if we look at the adventurer, it might not necessarily be the image I was exactly looking for, as I was looking for someone more in the woodlands or perhaps even in the pyramids. I don't know, something along those lines. I could go ahead and write those prompts in. But the concept that I'm trying to get across to you in this lesson is clearly there. It's now a portrait in motion. And with the Spartan warrior, it has done this exactly the way I would want. Particularly in the first 3 quadrants, we can see that the images still capture this portrait mid-torso. However, there is an element of motion in the image rather than it being static. Now, I know a lot of you are looking forward to the whole face swap lesson. I will be doing this further within the Midjourney series, but before we do that, I want to go ahead and explore some other styles. It was necessary for me to first talk about portrait and dynamic poses, as this is something that's super key and probably where Midjourney performs the best. In this lesson, the style I want to talk about is stickers. So in order for you to generate a sticker, the prompt you want to use is die cut sticker. And from there, you can add whatever sticker you may be interested in. I'm going to go ahead and write Cobra. And as you can see, Midjourney has done a really great job of creating a Cobra sticker, particularly this 3rd quadrant image. However, you may not necessarily want a background. You may not necessarily want any wood, table. Sometimes you will get hands and fingers holding the sticker. So if I re-roll this, we can see if we are able to bring that particular fault into the mix. So I can show you another parameter. So there we go. We've got another set of stickers. However, you can see the fingers and the hands have now come into play. And the reason why I wanted to show this fault in particular, because whenever you do create die cut stickers, it is almost certain that some of your images will have hands and fingers in there, and there's a function that allows you to remove or ensure the Midjourney bot does not include this in the images, and it's called the no function. So if I go ahead and type in my prompt again, which is die cut sticker Cobra -- no hands, and I'll also type in fingers. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back to where I've written Cobra and type in white background. Hit enter, and there you have it. We now have a set of stickers that we can easily take into Photoshop and remove the background. Great use case scenario of this is using stickers on Instagram stories, or it can even be used as a logo if you want. However, I don't necessarily believe these kind of convey the sticker theme or trend that's out there. They seem to have a lot more detail than they should, and they seem quite vicious. So let's go ahead and switch up the prompt. If we take the same prompt, and this time I'm going to write after die cut sticker simple Cobra, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the same. However, rather than writing simple, I'm going to add the word kawaii. Now, this is a Japanese style of cute animations, probably the best way to describe it, but it's something that we see quite often when stickers are being used. The first prompt that we've typed in has come back, so you can see that the stickers themselves are a lot more simpler, and Midjourney's gone ahead and given us a Viper sports car as well, which is pretty cool. And using the kawaii prompt, as you can see, we've got more of this friendly, cute style that's commonly seen when stickers are being applied through any type of creation, which is really cool. And don't forget, we also can apply chaos if we want to get a complete variation. And from there, you just carry on building your prompt. However, the key thing is you use die cut sticker at the start to get this particular style. Okay, so in this lesson, I'd like to explore painting styles. I'm going to try and cover a few painting styles just so you can get a quick gist of how I would go about prompting them. However, it's worth noting that the greater understanding you have of painting styles allows you to implement better prompts. So for example, let's start off with something extremely simple. If I go ahead and let's just say we stick with the whole Cobra theme and type in watercolor painting of a Cobra striking, aka top striker, aka top G. Now Midjourney's thrown back some really interesting imagery here. I really like the image in the second quadrant. I might go ahead and upscale that. But as you can see, it has taken the watercolor painting style and applied it within the image. Watercolor painting is a very basic painting style. And let's go ahead and do another basic one, which is oil painting. So I'm just going to copy this prompt. And this time I'll write oil painting of a Cobra striking. So again, Midjourney's done a wonderful job of applying the art style into the image. Specifically, this image in the third quadrant. This definitely screams oil painting. And again, oil painting is another common and basic painting style, but what you can do is start to explore much deeper painting themes. For example, I'm going to prompt pop art painting of a Cobra striking. I'll also go ahead and prompt impressionist painting of a Cobra striking. And let's go ahead and do one more, perhaps a minimalistic painting of a Cobra striking. So let's cross compare these three painting styles and have a look what the Midjourney bot has given us. So first one in the pop art style, this looks really good. It almost is reminiscent of the Andy Warhol style of pop art movement. Anyone who's familiar with that will understand you have these bright LGBT style of colors. It's a great version of what pop art should look like with the Cobra striking. I'm truly impressed by that. Then from there we have the impressionist painting style, which we can see encompasses this dotted type of paintbrush style. Really good. And then finally I use the minimalistic painting, which is something more of the modern era, and we can see this being conveyed in the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. But this whole lesson is just to show you that within the word painting you have so many styles over so many eras that you can basically explore and apply within your prompts to get a particular feel or theme within your creation. In this lesson, I'd like to explore the style of photography. And in particular, when talking about photography, I would like to explore with you portraits and landscapes. Essentially basic photography. So let's go ahead and start our prompt. And for this, I'm going to write outdoor photograph. And commonly you'll see a lot of people throughout Midjourney or within the community use photorealistic as a prompt. However, you tend to get inconsistent results when using this word. Whereas using the word photograph, you will get a more consistent photography style of image given to you by Midjourney's bot. I'll go ahead and prompt portrait of a person in their 20s. 30mm lens. And it's very important when prompting for photography, you want to ensure that you put the lens within your prompt, as this will help massively on the results that you yield. It's always freakishly scary to see the results Midjourney throws back, especially when looking at photography and portraits. These images, particularly the second, third, and fourth quadrant, could pass as real photos. I'm going to add some environment into the photography, and to do this, I'll copy the previous prompt. So once again, imagine prompt, I'll paste this in, and where I've got portrait of a person in their 20s, I'll add something like in a sunny environment. Let's change the lens to a 25mm lens. Hit enter, let Midjourney do its thing. And as you can see, we definitely can see the sun or light leaks pouring into the portrait. Midjourney's even gone ahead and placed glasses on 3 of the images. Unfortunately, Midjourney doesn't seem to be showing any teeth, fingers, hands, which I want it to. So I'm going to go ahead and re-roll this image or this prompt a few times, because you'll find that Midjourney genuinely has difficulty in creating great teeth, fingers and toes. And this is not just Midjourney. I've tend to found this throughout all AI models. And for selecting a portrait, I always advise everybody to look at the teeth, fingers or toes. And even sometimes your prompts would result in another arm or another leg. It doesn't seem to be happening, which is great. I suppose we can see some teeth here in the 4th quadrant. So let's go ahead and upscale the 4th quadrant. And on the previous image, I'm going to upscale the 2nd quadrant and see the results that we yield back. Cool, they look really good. And like I say, I genuinely do find it freakishly scary. That image there could 100% pass off as a genuine image that's come out of a camera. Let's go ahead and prompt something for landscapes. So to do this, I'm going to follow the same structure, which is outdoor photograph. And where I've used portrait, this time I'm going to use the word landscape. And let's go with snowy mountain hills. And we'll use a 100mm lens this time. That's yielded back some really great results. We can see this 100mm style lens photography coming out with the snow-filled mountains. And I think sometimes when doing a landscape, it may be best to specify a particular aspect ratio. As you know, I always use either 3:2, 16:9, or 9:16 if I'm looking for something of a vertical nature. And yeah, that's another great style that we can explore. Midjourney has a fantastic ability of capturing photography styles. And just before I close this lesson, a really great tip for you is if you head over to Midjourney's website and hit the sign in button on the bottom right hand corner, over toward the top left hand side of Midjourney's interface, if you hit explore, you can see what the community are doing. And if I just scroll through different images that are being created by the community, I can also start looking for perhaps portrait or landscape style photography. This one here is pretty good. I can have a look at different prompts to try and understand what the community are using. So here, as mentioned earlier, photorealistic. So there's another one here. If we look at the prompts being used, close up, high quality photo. And this is just another really cool way to kind of help with your prompting. Get onto the community feed, see what the community within Midjourney are creating. And perhaps there's some prompts that could help you with your prompt styling. There's genuinely some amazing art that is being created within the Midjourney community. So here we've got one of a landscape photography, and the prompt that stands out here for me is this minimalistic photography. But yeah, hopefully you get the idea. It's a really cool style to play around with, especially if you're trying to add some type of photography or look for a particular photo that you can add into your content creation. This next lesson is going to be a relatively short lesson. However, I did want to talk about this style specifically, and I'm super excited to teach you about it, because if anyone is a previous gamer or an avid gamer or has some idea of gaming concepts, in particular anything like The Sims or Red Alert 2 for any of the elder generation might be listening, a lot of the Build the City games run on this particular style, and the style is called isometric view. So let's go ahead and play around within Midjourney and see what isometric views we can come out with. I'll set up my prompt, and in this I'm going to write isometric view, and let's get a bit wild with this and write of the Pentagon. And whilst Midjourney does its thing, let's go ahead and do the same with of the White House. I was a bit slow off the mark there. Midjourney has created the isometric view of the Pentagon, and as you can see, you've got this city tile style of the Pentagon. Genuinely looks like something you would travel around your map and place as an icon down. I really like it. However, this is something more that I was looking for, so perhaps Midjourney was getting confused with the word Pentagon, as it might have been traveling more down the lines of the actual shape rather than the building. The White House is something that's a lot more familiar across the board, and you can see you get this really cool isometric view, almost low poly style of the White House, right? And what I'm going to do is use the same prompt, but let's dissect the White House. So isometric view of inside the White House. So Midjourney is kicked back with a view inside the White House. Don't necessarily believe this is exactly the White House. However, this could actually pass off as the Oval Room. Could it not? I'm not sure. I can see what kind of looks like the United States symbol of an eagle on the carpet. However, the room's not oval. But regardless, it's a pretty cool feature. And where you can start to get really creative with this is if I go ahead and set up my prompt, I'm going to paste in the same prompt, which is isometric view of the White House, and then follow up with in the night, glowing highlights. Hit enter. So now we're starting to combine some of the learning from our previous lessons. Obviously, we've got the isometric view. We've included an environment, and then we've also specified some type of lighting. This particular image in quadrant 1 looks really good. And yeah, it's something you can play around with. It's also worth noting that the isometric view isn't only for landscapes or buildings. It also can be used for objects. So let's go ahead and set up a prompt again. I'm going to use isometric view of a sports car. And just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and set up another prompt. And this time I'm going to use isometric view of a Ferrari. See what happens. So the first prompt has come back, and Midjourney's done a pretty good job of showing a isometric view of the sports car. I really like this image in quadrant 2. And on the second prompt that we did, which I included the word Ferrari, we can see that it's done a really good job of actually capturing a Ferrari. And from here, what you could do to expand your prompt is a Ferrari on the track, a Ferrari fueled up. You could probably specify the exact sports car you're after. But generally, a really quick lesson on isometric view is something I truly enjoy because I get a reminder of some of the games I used to play. And yeah, sometimes it can create a really cool effect if this is something that you're looking for in any of your creations.
Do you accept the world as it is?
Out of 3 rounds, 8 people away in effect. You got it. Out of 3 rounds, 8 people away in effect.
In this lesson, I'd like to talk about icons. I've spent a lot of time exploring through various website sources, and I can't find anything that truly helps somebody prompt icons. Now, this is primarily because many people just use Midjourney for its extreme capabilities when it comes to portrait creation. However, Midjourney's ability to produce icons is extremely good, and people tend to ignore the fact of how important icons are within your creation, whether it's a website, whether it's a video creation, anything that you need to bullet point or list out and you want to create intriguing, customized icons for, you should be using Midjourney. And what I'm going to do in this lesson is give you the step-by-step prompt engineering that I would use to create icons for my creations. So the very first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is start with a very basic prompt. And for some strange reason, a watermelon has come into my head. So let's just go ahead and do a watermelon, right? So watermelon icon. Now, whilst these icons are okay, they're probably not something that I would use on, let's just say, a restaurant website that I might be creating, but just bear with me. I think out of all of these, the direction I would try to steer an icon generation is this particular image in the 3rd quadrant. So what I want to go ahead and do now is set up my prompt engineering in a way that I'm giving steering direction to Midjourney. So watermelon icon, and I'll probably write lineal icon, vector illustration, minimalism, simple design. Now, just to break those prompts down, lineal icon is me trying to say to Midjourney bot that I'm looking for something that is almost like outline style of drawing. I'm looking for a vector, and I'm not going to go into the whole nuances of vector versus rasterized illustration. Minimalism, this is a stylized term that essentially couples with simple design. Go ahead and hit enter. Let's see what Midjourney gives us back. But what we're trying to do is aim for these flat icon styles that we see used throughout a variety of websites, newsletters, and for me in particular, video creation, because sometimes you could be working with a client and they have a section where they're talking and they may be listing out a set of bullet points. This is where I would create a set of icons that I can put next to each bullet point. Okay, so we're starting to see the steering of a icon coming into play. Again, the 3rd quadrant seems to be pretty good. However, we're still not completely there. So in terms of prompting, we've got our subject, which is the watermelon. Then from there, we've given Midjourney steering directions, I like to call them. Now what we want to do is give programs and applications. And this is where the trick comes into play. And a lot of people miss this. This will essentially be me telling Midjourney, these are the type of applications someone would use to create this particular style of icon I'm after. So let's copy the above, set up our prompt. And what I'd like to do is add in Adobe XD and Figma. These are two applications that people would use to create user interfaces or UX style designs. So we can go ahead and put in UX UI. And then from there, I'm going to further define outline icon style and hit enter. Let's see what Midjourney throws back. So I'd probably go ahead and re-roll these. However, we are now starting to travel down the flat icon route. You can see that we're getting clear direction in terms of icon generation. But I think what we're missing is color. Right, so I'm going to add in color. Let's set up our prompt again. And then where I've got outline icon, I'm going to add simple colors and flat color. And what I want to go ahead and do now is also change the subject. So if, for example, I change watermelon icon to game controller, let's try another one. I don't know, let's try sword icons. We could go ahead and try world icon. So we've got the watermelon come back. This is pretty good. Again, probably need some re-rolling of this, but definitely on the ball when it comes to a flat icon that I'm looking for. And the gamer control one has come out absolutely beautiful, particularly this one in the fourth quadrant. In fact, you could use all of them, right? And I think what I'm missing from this is a white background. So if I go ahead and set up my prompt again, remove the word watermelon out of the prompt. I'm going to go ahead and type game controller again. And this time towards the end, I'm going to include white background. The sword icons have come back again. Really cool. I would definitely use this icon in the second quadrant, but let's look at the game controller icon with the white background. I think we're also waiting on the world icons to come back as well. But here we go. This is exactly what I was aiming for. Now I could easily upscale one of these icons. Let's just say I wanted to upscale quadrant 4. And I'd take this into Photoshop, I would remove the white background, and then the icon itself I can use anywhere, right? But this shows you the versatility of this prompt, and I employ anybody who is trying to make icons for anything and make unique icons, then genuinely take this prompt, and the areas you want to try and tweak and play around with is of course the subject. Where I've got game controller, you want to add what particular icon you're interested in, and then perhaps you can play around with simple colors and flat color. You know, you could go ahead and use neon colors. Let's do this. I'm going to set up this prompt. So I've copied the prompt. I've got game controller. Let's remove that and put Cobra icon. And I want to go ahead and change simple colors into neon colors. I might remove white background because usually if you want neon colors, it's most likely going to be on a black background. I'll leave the word flat color in. Hit enter and let's see what Midjourney gives us back. I'm just going to go ahead and put in another prompt using the Cobra icon idea again. But the neon colors have come back and this looks really good as a flat icon, particularly this icon in the third quadrant. And using the original prompt, we've got back our white background. I'd be more than happy to use this icon in the fourth quadrant and perhaps keep re-rolling the prompt until I've got a whole set of icons that I can use. I mean, it's a really cool and simple way to get some type of unique bullet points going on your website, on whatever you might be doing. So be sure to use this prompt and be sure to explore Midjourney's capability of creating icons. It's something that is not truly looked into. And I hope this lesson helps for anyone that is exploring any type of branding that they might be doing.
Just mix with straw. We have so far is this sound. Well, like the man said, what doesn't kill you? Just mix with straw. We have so far is this sound. Well, like the man said, what doesn't kill you?
This is going to be a quick lesson on the last style that I'm going to explore with you G's. And as I mentioned in an earlier lesson, there are so many styles that you can explore within Midjourney. I've just given you a little taste of 1 or 2 styles that I like. You need to get out there and explore different styles, different themes, different prompts within Midjourney to become truly competent at using AI art. And in this lesson, I just want to quickly look at sketches. So let's stick with the Cobra theme, and I'm just going to write Cobra sketch. I left this till last because sketching is the type of style that everybody associates when you think of art. It's really simple and there's nothing too complicated about it. Midjourney does a fairly decent job of creating sketches. However, what I do tend to find is with the sketch prompt on its own, Midjourney does do a overkill, you could say, of the detail within a sketch. And you can see that here with this prompt. Also, we've got this double mouth appearing in the first quadrant image. As I previously mentioned, Midjourney does tend to struggle with teeth, fingers, toes, and generally you will start to see some extra arms, legs, mouth come out. And also we're starting to get these pencils around the side of our image. So let's go ahead and change the prompt to minimalistic sketch of Cobra, and then we can go ahead and put our no prompt, so -- no pencil, hit enter and let Midjourney do its thing. That's funny because it's actually given us one of the Marvel characters, I think, or perhaps some type of character design relating to Cobra. So we probably need to change it to Cobra Snake, or perhaps we start the prompt off with Cobra instead. So I'm going to write Cobra Snake minimalist sketch, hit enter, and what I'm also going to do is use the same prompt, but this time I'm going to insert the word pencil sketch. And then I can go ahead and also do another prompt, but rather than using pencil, I can use the keyword marker. And again, this is me showing you that specifying the exact tool of creation can help give you better image results. So the marker sketch has come back, and I really like this one in the 4th quadrant. You really can see the marker style of sketching coming through. We've still got these pencils bleeding onto the image. Of course, you can use the no prompt, and with the pencil sketch, again, in the 4th quadrant, this looks really good. But yeah, sometimes you want to try and knock down the detail within the sketch, and prompts like minimalist or simple design or simple sketch. You can even go down the route of writing something like 10-year-old sketch of Cobra Snake. That will probably yield something a little less detailed. But overall, sketch is a really simple style. Not something that I use quite frequently, but it can help with generating some amazing results like this upscaled version of the Cobra Snake using a marker. Okay, so really short lesson there. I think we've gone through a few different styles, and what I want to start doing now is moving over to pro prompting. I think for now that concludes any lessons relating to styling. Like I said, please go out there and explore different styles to add into your prompting. And in the next lessons, let's move over to pro prompting, in particular looking at the different type of parameters we can add in our prompts. Welcome to the section on pro prompting. I know you're all super excited to get stuck into this section, so I'm not going to waste any time and let's get straight into it. So my default pro prompt that I use when creating photorealistic or portraits of some type of battle is here on the screen. I've mentioned it previously before, so I'm not going to run through and break down the prompt in its entirety. What I'll quickly do is copy this prompt and we'll set up our prompt for
Alright, give me a second. That's yours. It's most definitely yours, because I have like 5 devices right now. Everything's fine. What are we playing? Fortnite. I've officially put 100,000 hours on my baby girl. On this team. I've had it for almost a year now. Or not 100,000 hours.
100,000 hours?
It's about 50. No, it's about 50,000.
That is still a lot.
Well, that's what I do. That's what I do. I like doing that. Oh shit! I just turned off the TV. Oh, menu. How do you work TV? There we go. I haven't used this.
Fair warning. Not good at Fortnite.
I'm okay at it. I'm not the best. I finally got my debit card. After a month, I finally got it.
You got a debit card?
Yeah.
Is a debit card that comes from your bank or like?
It comes straight from your account. Like it's debit. Debit is like your money, but credit's like the bank's money.
Oh.
Yeah. Why is your phone locked? I got dookie internet. Oh my lord.
Creation, where I've got the open and close square brackets with 3 dots, that's usually where I can change the subject. So for this particular section that we're going through in Midjourney, I'm gonna do an army styled theme. So if I write army sniper, we've already explored aspect ratio, so I'm gonna add to this prompt _AR 16:9. We've also already explored chaos, so I'm gonna add C80. I do like a lot of chaos within my pro prompting simply because the variation gives me more options to play around with. And then for this lesson, I want to explore with you quality. Now, quality is the time spent in generating the image. So higher quality means more requirement from your GPU, therefore more minutes spent creating the job. However, quality does not have an impact on the resolution. So there's 3 settings you can have for quality. The very first is 0.25. So I'm going to write _Q and 0.25. Hit enter. And then I'll go ahead and create the exact same prompt. However, I'm going to change the quality to 0.5. And then we'll create another prompt using the quality as 1. What this will allow us to do is see the difference in quality of all 3 images relating to the prompt that we've used. So as you can see, 0.25 has come back fairly quickly and the quality is semi-decent. It's not bad. We've got 0.5 come back, which you can now start to see the quality has kind of increased, specifically with this quadrant 4 image. That looks really good. And then I've also had quality 1 come back. I probably wouldn't use any of these images. And to be honest with you, we could have expanded on the prompt a bit more in relation to an army sniper. But what I want you to do is just show you that you can have different levels of quality within your prompt. Let's go ahead and play around with the actual prompt and see where we can take this in terms of the quality. I'm going to keep it at 1. So fearless, attacking, gritty, army sniper. I might remove the word warrior and perhaps include special ops, army sniper in the middle of epic battle, photorealistic, dramatic shot. And I might change this to wide shot. Let's go ahead, hit enter and see what that looks like. Okay, so we've got our results back. For some reason, Midjourney is positioning the sniper in a sand environment. So I'd probably play around and tweak this. I do like the results from quadrant 3. Not too sure what's happening up in quadrant 1, but that's fine. The main aim of this lesson is to show you that you can have 3 variations of quality. And it's worth noting that the default setting when prompting is actually Q1, which is the highest quality available. So you don't necessarily need to specify the prompt --Q1 because it's already set. You'd only use the quality prompt if you're trying to drop the quality and get a very quick response out of Midjourney.
You said you don't play the game. You're 1 from 87.
I've just doubled back and I've changed some of the prompts slightly and I've had some pretty cool adaptations to the images that I'm getting from Midjourney. So in this top one, we can see that I've basically added the word night to try and bring some type of setting in there. And then I've removed the word sniper. So it's just special ops army. Still okay, not probably the best results I could yield. However, I've then gone ahead and added into my prompt special ops army warrior in the middle of an epic stealth mission battle. battle. And I'm super pleased with this image here in the third quadrant. I still want this type of stealth night theme being applied. So let's play around with the prompt a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and change the word battle for in the night. Therefore, this particular section now reads Special Ops Army Warrior in the middle of an epic stealth mission in the night. I might get rid of some of the fluff here. So we've got Special Ops Army Warrior, middle of an epic stealth mission during the night. And perhaps I could add a feature to this particular Special Ops character. Let's go ahead and include night vision goggles. Photorealistic dramatic wide shot. Whilst Midjourney is producing the results for that prompt, I want to briefly describe the pro prompt that we'll be looking at in this lesson, which is the stop function. Now, the stop function basically works in a way that you stop the image generation at particular points in time. And what this allows you to do is get a blurred effect throughout the image creation. And it starts from 10 all the way to 100. So once we've seen this prompt, it might not be the prompt I'm actually after or the direction I want to take my creation in, but we'll go ahead and start exploring the stop function. So that's come back. I'm not truly happy with it. I think the fact that I included the word goggles has changed it drastically. So I'm going to revert back to our original prompt and let's get rid of the whole army style theme and play around with something that's a bit more obvious. Let's go for Spartan Warrior. I'll change dramatic shot to dramatic wide shot. Go ahead and put the aspect ratio of 16:9, then -C80, apply some chaos, and let's run that for now. Then what I want to do is introduce the stop function. So reset our prompt, and then towards the end, I'm going to put --stop. And the first criteria I'm going to give Midjourney is 10. Let's copy this, and we're going to go up in increments of 10, right? So I'm just going to skip forward to the point where I've written out all the prompts. Okay, so we've got our results back, and we can look and see that the stop function will cause the image to generate and stop at particular sections. So 10 is just completely blurry, as is 20. And then when you start to move into 30, you can start to see some of the images being generated. 40, again, a similar scenario. Now, this could be a really cool effect for some type of sci-fi or blurred character in quadrant 3. And even quadrant 4 could be passed as something like perhaps a warrior running at speed. I don't know. And then at stop 50, we're starting to see a little bit more detail come into play. 70, a lot more clearer. Not entirely sure what's going on here with quadrant 3 within Midjourney. That's fine. And then obviously once we start getting into 80 and 90, we can see that a lot more of the detail is coming through. A lot more of the image creation process is being shown. So here we're at 90. And then of course, our default setting doesn't require a stop, because you wouldn't necessarily write stop 100 because that's the end result. So we've got some pretty cool variations here. We're still not hitting exactly what I want, and there's a particular reason for that, and that comes in the next lesson where we will talk about the stylize parameter or pro prompt.
So yeah, I'm gonna be home alone, and I don't like being home alone for more than a day. I hate it. Can you not hear me?
No, I cannot. Very muffled.
Hello?
Now I can hear.
Hello? Is that better?
Yes, a lot better.
Okay, there we go. You're just gonna like have my steering wheel, because I have a new phone case and it covers like everything.
Wait, are we
Okay.
dropping where you set the little thing to change?
Yeah, sure, I guess not. Why not? Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. It might be that I swear, that thing does not work on
What?
my phone, my tripod.
For this section or this lesson, let's go ahead and switch up the prompt again.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll look at something to do with
Yeah,
Vikings.
that's what I
So I'll just set up my prompt, and this time I've got Viking Warrior, aspect ratio 16:9, and once again chaos at 80. So I'm going to go ahead, hit enter, and let Midjourney create that prompt. But in this lesson, what I actually want to talk about is stylization. And again, similar to the other parameters or pro prompting that we've been looking at, you have a scale which goes from 0 to 1000, and and you can go up in increments of 250. Now, it's almost like a no-brainer where you want your stylization to be at 1000. However, it does come with a compromise. At 1000, Midjourney will favor color, composition, and form. However, it may be less connected to the prompt that you're entering. Funnily enough, majority of us when using Midjourney are not the greatest of prompt experts. Therefore, having styles set at 1000 can truly help your prompt, and this is where you start to see the power of Midjourney. So if we look at this prompt on its own, right, fairly freaky, especially the first quadrant and the third quadrant. Not entirely sure what's going on here. I know it's supposed to be a boat, but it actually looks like the Viking warrior is in a bowl. Maybe something Arnold would do on one of his lives. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at stylization and how it can transform this prompt. So we've got Viking warrior in the middle of an epic battle, and I'm going to go ahead and put double dash S for stylize and 250, hit enter. Then from there, I'm going to put in the same prompt, however, change the S to 500. Let's do that again, this time 750, and then lastly I'll go ahead and apply 1000. Okay, so we've got our results back. If we look at 250, we're still not completely there yet. However, it does seem to be moving in the right direction. If we go over to 500, again, not completely there yet, but if we look at this image over here in the second quadrant, this does seem to be moving a lot more in the right direction. Now, if we travel to 750, this is definitely on the right direction, particularly the image in quadrant 2. I'd actually use something like this. And then when we move over to 1000, we definitely are on the right tracks. This is exactly what I would look for. And if we compare this to what our original prompt was without any stylization added, we can see a drastic difference. And what I'm going to go ahead and do here is revert back to our previous lesson. So rather than Viking, I'll go ahead and write Special Ops Army, remove the word warrior, and bump the style to 1000. Quickly copy that, hit enter, and then again I'll write the same prompt, but this time we will change Special Ops Army to Spartan Warrior, hit enter. Midjourney has kicked back the results, and you can see clearly that just by adding this pro prompt, we truly have generated images that we can utilize in relation to a portrait of some type of epic battle. I really like the images generated of the Spartan Warrior and of course the Viking. So there you have it. Make sure you are including the style parameter within your Midjourney prompts, and I promise you at 1000 you will yield some amazing results.
Where'd you get that? Come here, look, like I have like a, it's like a bubble gum. It's a ball of bubble gum. I used the launch pad that was up there. Look at it. I don't know. I don't know. I got it out of the chest. Yeah, you just...
There's a feature within Midjourney that hasn't necessarily been totally expanded or explored yet. I just want to quickly touch on it because I believe in the future this is something that will become super relevant, and that is pro prompting video. So let's use the prompt that we've been using throughout this pro prompting section, and what I'm going to do is get specific and write Genghis Khan warrior. However, towards the end of my prompt, I'm going to add double dash video, hit enter, and Midjourney has come back with some stunning results of Genghis Khan within battle. I'd most likely create a variation of quadrant 2 and perhaps even quadrant 1, although I do believe quadrant 2 is very reminiscent of what Genghis Khan looks like, but that is not what we are exploring in this lesson. By typing the pro prompt video, if we add a reaction to this response given to us by Midjourney, and that reaction being a envelope, what will happen is Midjourney will send me a DM, and if I click the DM in the far left hand corner, I've now been given my prompt, job ID, seed, and video. If I click on this link that I've received, hit visit site, I'm actually given a video of the prompt being generated. Let me play that again. This gives rise to the question of, in the future, could we potentially see Midjourney applying some type of video creation to the art that is being generated? And there is AI software out there which does take text to video rather than text to image. Now, at this present time of recording, you can only apply this video effect to the 4 quadrant images. If I was to upscale one of these images and add an envelope emoji, it will not provide me with a video of the creation process. But nevertheless, it's something to know and to look out for in the near future.
Yeah.
On the exact same way you just showed me. I want it really bad. Really bad. How did you get in here? Oh.
I said,
Oh, I did not mean to pick that up.
I hear people.
I see it
When
right here. Why am I still having
For me, this is one of the most important lessons that I'll be teaching you in the Midjourney series. And this lesson, I go into how I generate pro prompts that you see me using throughout art submissions, throughout my thumbnails for my AMAs, throughout the entirety of this course. And basically what I'm doing is reverse engineering images to text. So throughout the lesson so far, we've been using text prompts to generate images. This feature within Midjourney allows you to insert images and gain the text prompt that Midjourney would recommend to create a very similar image, and it's called the describe feature. The principles behind this lesson will allow you to generate amazing prompts for any future art that you're interested in creating. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead into the message bar and type /describe. When I hit enter, I'm prompted to upload an image. Now, before I upload an image, it's worth mentioning that the images you want to present to the Midjourney bot should be from the source. Now, what do I mean by this? If you're going to copy and paste a Google image, majority of the times this function won't work. Therefore, I recommend you travel down the route of visiting the site of that image, finding the actual source image, downloading, and then uploading. And of course, you also can encounter copyright issues and all of that type of stuff. So for our example, I'm going to go ahead and use a game I'm sure you're all familiar with, which is Grand Theft Auto. And I've picked a particular background and style that I've seen emulated throughout many thumbnails, many art creation prior to Midjourney even existing. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And what Midjourney bot has sent us back is essentially 4 options, each with the prompts written on them. So for example, the very first prompt is a man holding a dog behind him in a Grand Theft on street in style of highly defined illustrations. And I'm not even gonna bother saying that word. It's worth noting that some of the words the prompts do throw out are a bit strange. However, we shouldn't necessarily be concerned about that. Let me explain to you how I would go about using these prompts now. The very first thing is I would imagine all, so you can see this button here, which will basically create images based on the 4 prompts Midjourney has taken from the image we've uploaded. But prior to hitting imagine all, I just want to show you, if I click the 1 emoji, I'll get a pop-up very similar to the remix mode, and here I can go ahead and change the prompt and do whatever I want to do. But I'm going to click off this and I'm going to hit imagine all rather than clicking 1, 2, 3 and 4. And as we can see, Midjourney is now creating 4 quadrant images based on the image that we've uploaded. Okay, Midjourney has given our images back, and if we look at every single one of these prompts, they definitely have a Grand Theft Auto style about them. Now, I'm not necessarily concerned about what's happening in the picture in terms of a man or a dog or anything along those lines. What I'm looking for is how Midjourney has gone ahead and created that particular style of GTA within its image. So if I scroll through the images, I was thinking about picking a particular prompt. However, they're all really good. If we look at this last one, I genuinely think the first image quadrant is bang on. In fact, all of the prompts are. Therefore, what I would start to do is try and look into the prompt wording. So we can see here, we've got Grand Theft Auto 6 wallpaper. We've got style of hyper-realistic animal illustrations, bold graphic comic book art, 19th century German realism, Days Core. In our second prompt, we've got Ashante art, close-up intensity, energy-filled illustration. So these are the type of prompts that I would be picking out and almost trying to capture when creating my main image prompt that I'm after. And you could even go down the line of saying, okay, from all of these, I genuinely like this particular first quadrant image style. I believe this is the first prompt. And what I can do from here is click 1. I can either copy the prompt, use it for later whilst prompting another image, and then add this in. Alternatively, I can go ahead and amend this prompt right here, right now. So currently we've got a man holding a dog. So I can go ahead and write a Spartan warrior holding a sword, hit submit. And let's see if we get a similar GTA style, however, now with a Spartan warrior within the image. Okay, so we've got a really good image back, however, not necessarily in the style that I'm after. So what I'm going to do here is copy this prompt, go over to Imagine, paste this prompt in, and I'm just going to cycle back and try and pick out words that are highly related to Grand Theft Auto. So for example, we've got Grand Theft Auto 6 wallpaper HD in the style of hyper-realistic animal illustrations, bold graphic comic book art, which I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to add that to the prompt that we've currently got written down the bottom. I'll remove the word animal. Let's go ahead and have a look at what Midjourney does with those prompts. So we can see in comparison to the first one, we're slowly starting to get this GTA-esque style coming out, particularly in this bottom third quadrant. I wonder if we copy this prompt here, which I believe is the fourth prompt that Midjourney gave us, set up our prompt, and then where I've got animal, if I replace with Spartan warrior, let's see what happens. Okay, cool. So I've been given a nudge that this prompt might be against Midjourney's community standards, which is fine. I'm going to ignore that. Let's set up the prompt again. And I'm actually going to take out aestheticized violence. Again, I'm going to change the animal prompt to Spartan warrior. Let's see what that does. Okay, cool. So we've got back into the GTA style. I mean, we could probably put a remix mode in and upscale this image 1 quadrant and then start playing around with the character to move towards a Viking style of setting. For some reason, it's managed to pick up the horse. But overall, this is a feature that I will commonly use to constantly play around and generate a prompt that I'm truly happy with. So in our previous lessons, we've been using a particular prompt to insert things like Special Ops Army, Viking Warrior, Genghis Khan Warrior. This is a prompt I've actually developed through the describe feature, and it's taken me quite a while to develop it. But once I've got the prompt there, that means I can use it in multiple scenarios like we've done in this lesson. So yes, go down the route of using the describe feature and exploring. It can sometimes take a lengthy amount of time to figure out exactly the prompt that you need, but that's fine, because once you do have the prompt, then you only need to make minimal changes and have a variety of images that can be created just from that one prompt. With that being said, let's hop over to the next lesson where I'm going to run through a whole bunch of prompts that you can take away and use immediately. In this lesson, what I'd like to do is explore some pro prompting with you. Now, throughout this course, in the background, I've been generating and creating prompts, particularly for this lesson. And I suppose you could say this is not really a lesson. It's more of a creativity session. I'd like to explore some of the prompts, and hopefully you can use these prompts as well for your own creations. And what better way to start than where we previously left our lesson on the GTA style. Now, I believe I've managed to push the prompt in a manner that reflects the GTA style to its core. And funnily enough, the word that I needed was GTA Vice City. For some reason, Midjourney seems to pick up Vice City a lot better than GTA 5. So I'm going to set up my prompt. And what I've essentially got is GTA Vice City, Grand Theft Auto style, space, standing in front of space, extremely detailed, high quality pink and purple theme. Now I'm going to write a man in a suit standing in front of a, let's go with helicopter, which is extremely common in GTA 5 or GTA Vice City, whichever one you've played. I'll copy and paste that. Hit enter, and I'm going to do the same prompt again, but this time what I'm going to do is change the colors. I should have put these in brackets as well. It doesn't necessarily need to be a pink and purple theme. You could go with a blue and purple theme. Let's go ahead and throw in the same prompt again, but this time I'm going to do ~S1000, and rather than a man in a suit, we could do a female wearing a baseball cap, and we could change the word helicopter to standing in front of a Impala. And the color choice I'd probably pick is pink and yellow. Let's go ahead and hit enter. The previous two prompts have come back, so we can see this actually nails the GTA style of image a lot more, particularly this one in the top right hand corner. And the great thing about Midjourney is it picks up the concept of Grand Theft Auto. And as you can see in each of these quadrants, the man is holding a firearm. And as you can see, where I've changed the prompt to a female wearing a baseball cap, this genuinely looks like a loadout screen from GTA. Of course, you can go ahead and upscale, but yeah, I'm quite pleased with that prompt. Moving on, let's have a look at the next prompt that I'm going to give you access to play around with. And let's try and keep it quite simple. I'll load up my prompt, and what I've basically gone for is super realistic photo space with blood covered face in a fierce battle. So in the first space, I'm probably going to write a particular character. Let's go with Leonidas, as I've used him quite extensively throughout this campus. And then I would write Spartan Warrior. Hit enter. Okay, funnily enough, that prompt has come back as potentially being against the community standards. I'm not going to go ahead and appeal. It's just a long-winded process. I'll dismiss the message. Let's go ahead and re-prompt this. So if I write Leonidas Spartan, I think it might be blood-covered face. I'm just thinking what else could be used instead of blood. Let's check this out. Yeah, it definitely is the prompt behind blood-covered face. It was working when I did this a little while back. So if I remove blood-covered face and just leave in fierce battle, let's have a look at that. Let's copy that prompt, set up another prompt. This time I'll use --S1000 --. I'm going to add a bit of chaos, probably go around about 80 chaos. Hit enter on that. And just to show you the versatility of this prompt, let me just quickly put in the same prompt again, but rather than Leonidas, I'm going to write Viking Warrior. Hit enter, and the very first prompt has come back. You can see we've got this really cool looking Spartan Warrior, and of course, again, you can upscale, you can change the aspect ratio dependent on what you want to do. With the S1000 and the chaos applied, this looks really good, particularly this image in the third quadrant and even the fourth quadrant. Let's go ahead and upscale some of these. I quite like this one in the fourth quadrant for the GTA, so let's upscale 4. And then for the Spartan one, I quite like the image in quadrant 3, so we go ahead and upscale quadrant 3. And then we've had our Viking one come back. Again, looks really good. These are great portraits, particularly this image for quadrant 4. Of course, you can go ahead and re-roll and adjust and tweak these prompts as much as you want. But overall, I'm quite happy with those 3 images. It's worth me pointing out that in this new version that we're currently playing around with, we have a zoom out function. So you can zoom the image out 1.5x or you can zoom the image out 2x. I'm going to do this on the Spartan image. So if I zoom out 1.5x on the Spartan image and then go ahead and zoom out 2x. Whilst Midjourney is processing those prompts, it's worth me noting out that if you do plan to use these prompts, always try and keep your client or your project in mind, and then that way you can adjust your prompts accordingly. So I know that the whole masculine male narrative and the whole kind of old school warrior theme works really well for a lot of the work that I do behind the scenes with the Cobra team. In your case, it could be completely different. That doesn't mean the prompts won't work. It just means that you need to tailor the prompts that I'm giving you in according to whatever you are trying to achieve. So Midjourney's kicked back those prompts, and as we can see on the 1.5, it looks pretty good. We've started to see some expansion happen. We can see this fist coming into play on this image here. And then on the 2.5, we go even further back where we can see the Spartan warrior is now holding a spear, and it does genuinely come in handy. For example, if I'm using an aspect ratio of 16:9 and the portrait image is too close, then the zoom out function can really help. You also have the ability to use a custom zoom. So for example, if I wanted to take the GTA prompt that we've used and click on custom zoom, you can see that this zoom out box that's already appeared has a -- zoom 2. So you don't necessarily need to hit custom zoom. You can already factor in the -- zoom prompt in your request to Midjourney. Okay, let's step it up a notch. So it's not uncommon that some of the narratives that Andrew Tate might say involve speaking on a prime minister or a president or a government. So I've got another prompt here, which I really like. It's kind of this caricature anime style, and it's super relevant for some of the projects that I create. Let's load up the prompt. How this has been pieced together is the prompt has a blank space so you can insert a president's name as an example. And then from there, it's taken a particular anime style or artist, I should say, which is Hosoda Mamoru, who does this great expression style of anime. Then that's coupled with smug expression, vibrant 8K, of course, American flag background, highly detailed, fully body shot. So, of course, I'm going to go ahead and type in Donald Trump --S1000, and I might even throw in a bit of chaos here just to see what happens. So C50. Whilst that's being created, let's go ahead and load up the prompt again, but this time I'm going to remove the chaos and add an aspect ratio of 9:16. So the first prompts come back, and I think I'll probably re-roll or definitely look at variations. It's not necessarily hitting exactly what I want. Maybe we can try another president. Let's go with Barack Obama and see what that kicks back. The 9:16 prompt has come back and it's done an awesome job. I genuinely could see me using this image in the second quadrant in a potential TikTok or Instagram reel. Let me just upscale that. And the Barack Obama prompt has come back as well. Pretty good, especially the third and fourth quadrant. But have a look at this. This is a really great depiction of a smug expression of Donald Trump. So another prompt for you to freely use in your creations. I'll just paste my prompt, and what I've got here is a very versatile prompt. I think a lot of you should take this and use it in whatever project or creation you might be executing in relation to AI art. But essentially the only gap is you being able to describe a particular character, a particular person doing some type of work. I mean, it could be a doctor, it could be a marine, it could be anyone, but the prompt basically compromises of person who works as a, let's do mad scientist, since we're playing around, living a very epic action scene, and characteristics of him very epic, very realistic, high quality, impressive contrast, saturation, incredible tint, good image filter, brightness, good lighting, full body, random background, dark environment, negative environment, action, 32K, unique. And what I tend to find is with this particular prompt setting, the quality should be around about 750 rather than the 1000. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And as always, a lot of these prompts have been reverse engineered. They're kind of words that have been pulled from different images around the community. And for all of you watching this lesson, you can go ahead and use them as much as you want. Again, just showing the versatility. I'm going to remove mad scientist and write Spec Ops Army Marine. Hit enter. Midjourney bot has given us the results for our mad scientist, and look at this. This is absolutely fantastic. Let's upscale this image in the fourth quadrant. We've got our upscale back, and we've also got our modified Spec Ops Army Marine prompt back. These look really good. Although remember what I said in one of the previous lessons, sometimes Midjourney will struggle with eyes, fingers, and feet. So take a look at this image in the first quadrant. The eyes look completely off key. We might be able to resolve that by upscaling the first quadrant, which I'm going to go ahead and do, and let's have a look if we manage to resolve that issue. No, we don't. We probably could create some variations, but those eyes seem extremely high and in the wrong position. Nevertheless, that's a really good prompt for you lot to go ahead and explore with. Now let's take it up a notch again. We're diving more and more deep into prompt engineering and how to write a very structured prompt, and this one's going to be slightly more complicated, but again, it's there for you to use. I'll load up the prompt, and here we go. It's more related to sports. Again, as you can imagine, the projects or the works of art that I would be highly interested in when it comes to the client I work with would be something related to boxing or kickboxing. So here I've got a blank, which I'm going to put boxing. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to remove the word player and write a boxer in. I'm going to put colors here, right? I'm not going to put a boxing ring. I've got that prompted later into the whole sentence. So a boxer in red and black. I've put jersey, but you can remove that depending on what you're doing. I've got my artist style. I've got ArtStation contest winner. I usually go with sci-fi sports because what I'm looking for is something really kind of futuristic here, and you'll see that throughout the prompt. Highly detailed, textured, 8K with boxing gloves, standing in a boxing ring, epic pose, champion, holographic display, smoke and debris, dynamic lighting. So that's me kind of looking for this cloud or smoke type of effect. Anyone who has worked with this in real life, usually what we would try and do is use smoke machines either side of the subject and then go ahead and take a camera shot. Then from there, I've put rainy weather, detailed 2D illustration, intense action scene, futuristic. And again, I'm just personally going to fill this gap with sci-fi tech. Let's go ahead ahead and hit enter. But as you can see, that prompt is a lot more complicated than the prompts we've used previously. Midjourney has come back with some really cool results. Definitely something I can see myself using, particularly the image in the first quadrant. So I'm going to go ahead and upscale that. But feel free to use this prompt and make sure that you add enough detail in what you're trying to capture. I've just gone through this lesson really briefly, adding 1 or 2 details in the areas that I think you should adjust the prompt. I'd advise you to go ahead and add as much detail and try and craft it in the exact way that you want. Moving on to the next creative session or creative lesson, whatever you want to call it. I want to dive a bit deeper into much more complicated prompts. And to do that, I'm going to start with something anime related. So let's load up our prompt. And here I've got a manga style prompt for all of you lot. The very first space, I'm going to go ahead and write Goku from Dragon Ball Z. In fact, I'm going to get rid of Goku and I might put Vegeta. I'll copy Vegeta's name because the rest of the spaces I have in the prompt are essentially the character's name. So Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z in a majestic 8K manga representation pop art, a high definition image, fighting, movement, clean lanes, lighting colors, monochromatic. This artistic masterpiece captures Vegeta in all his iconic glory, faithfully reproducing his features, the determined expression and the details of his clothes. Thanks to 8K resolution, every minute detail is crisp and brilliant, bringing Vegeta to life like never before. Using special rendering and lighting techniques, this image will show you Vegeta in a new light, revealing all of his power and charisma. Makoto Yukimuro, Vinland Saga style. Let's go ahead and hit enter. That was a bit of a mouthful saying that, right? And as we move further into the session, the prompts are going to get even longer. So Midjourney has spat back some really impressive results. I like the image in the 4th quadrant, so I'm going to upscale that. And what I might actually do is zoom out. I feel like this portrait is quite close. So if I hit zoom out 2x, hopefully we can get a further pushed back image. And whilst Midjourney is composing that image, I'm going to go ahead and copy the entire prompt. And I'd like to introduce to you a feature that has recently been launched, and it's called the shorten feature. So if I type /shorten and enter the entire prompt that I've just used, and what Midjourney will do is present to me 5 shortened versions of the prompt, each one getting shorter in the options. So what I'm going to do is just hit 1, hit submit. I don't want to change any of the details. 2, 3, 4, and 5. We'll take a look at those in a little moment. But going back to the zoom 2x, Midjourney's done exactly what I wanted it to. For me personally, I quite like the 2nd quadrant image, so I'm going to go ahead and upscale that. Midjourney has given back our 5 prompts, or shortened prompts I should say, and if we look through them, they look very representative of what we initially prompt. I'm actually quite surprised, particularly with the most shortest prompt. They look pretty good. However, it's not necessarily what I was completely going for. But check the prompt out: Vegeta, Dragon Ball Z, 8K manga representation, pop art, colors, monochromatic. Very simple prompt. And even here we've got an even simpler prompt, right? Whereby I do really like this 3rd quadrant image, and the prompt is Vegeta K manga pop art. However, I do feel like the first shortened prompt is as close as it gets to the original prompt that was written out. And this again is a pretty simple prompt, but that's a really cool way to shorten the prompts, and it's something definitely worth exploring. So let's go ahead and do another prompt. And what I actually want to do here is lean into the matrix concept. So there's only one blank within this particular prompt. I might actually avoid saying everything. I'm going to write in the blank I, but essentially the prompt itself captures the idea of digital artwork with green numbers and letters. It has the black background, almost like a central AI element to it, and a combination of like neon colors. And I've used the word futuristic throughout the prompt. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And at the same time, I'm going to copy the prompt and shorten it just to see the results that Midjourney comes back with. Okay, so our initial prompt has come back and it looks really cool. I've used the word I here, and that's why why I've got this kind of matrix conceptualized idea within a eye. And what I'll do is, just to show you the versatility of this prompt, I will use something other than an eye. However, if we look at the shortened prompts that have come back, it's done an absolutely fantastic job. So here's one example, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I do think the shorten feature is actually really good at capturing the large prompt and removing some of the fluff. Let's go ahead and set up our prompt again. And rather than having futuristic eye, let's put something like Cobra and see what that does. So whilst that's loading up, I'll go ahead and read out the prompt to you so you can use it if it's something you'd be interested in using for the future. So the prompt reads, create a captivating digital artwork featuring a centered, stylized, futuristic cobra. Cobra would be the word you'd remove. Alternatively, you can depict a brain made out of intricate circuits. Set the backdrop as a matrix-like binary code with green numbers and letters against a black background at the bottom of the composition. Utilize dark shades such as a black for the overall background to create a sense of depth and contrast. Emphasize the main AI element and accompanying text with bright neon colors like a vibrant shade of green to make them visually striking. To enhance the futuristic theme, scatter small icons or images such as a laptop, gear, or light bulb around the central AI element. The combination of dark shades, bright neon colors, and futuristic elements will create an engaging and visually dynamic prompt. Okay, so Midjourney has come back and given us something quite creative. In my mind, I was thinking of an actual cobra. However, you can slightly see the features of a cobra, specifically relating to the eyes of these images. However, I can also understand how Midjourney has moved in this direction because we did use the word futuristic, and I guess it could make sense. This is almost like a Cobra AI bot. Okay, so let's hop into the next session where I'm going to be exploring one final prompt, and it's a good one. For our last creative session, I'm going to go ahead and explore a very deep or long-rooted prompt. And it's a unique one because I remember specifically within our campus, we have quite a few car fanatics. So I've gone ahead and created a prompt that you can use for any vehicle and show off some AI art. So let's set up our prompt. And I'm going to paste the prompt in. Now bear with me before you all freak out. I will try and break down this prompt as much as possible. So the very first thing is I'm going to include a car. So in this case, I'm going to choose a BMW M5 competition. And I've left a second bracket there where you can go ahead and perhaps include some particular styling of the car. So what I'll do is I'll make it a race car with wide body kit. And then from there, I've got the rest of my prompt, which is highly related to the camera angle and the camera shots, along with exquisite detail, dynamic pose, cinematic color grading, portrait photography, shot on a 50mm lens, ultra wide angle, depth of field, highly detailed, beautiful, color coded, insane details, intricate details, beautifully color graded, cinematic color grading. So I'm using those words repetitively because I want Midjourney to take this down the route of a car that's not necessarily AI looking, but rather it's been shot in a place where a person has set up the car in a particular style or manner. And then I've included things like shutter speed. I've included the f-stop, white balance, the super resolution. And then I've also included things like Pro Photo RGB. And I've specified particular parts of the car that I'm interested in. So the half rear light, I've included lighting, cinematic lighting, glows, shadows, shimmering, post-production, because the best images we see of vehicles are usually ones that have insane detail and intricate post-production techniques applied to it. So let's go ahead and hit enter. And what I'll actually do is pull the entire prompt and of course use the shorten function to allow you to take the prompt and perhaps use it for yourself. So we've had the original prompt come back, and if you look at this, it looks absolutely amazing. It genuinely looks like this shot has been set up, particularly this first quadrant. I really like that image. It's a TRW orange M5 competition. Looks like a set piece where the lighting, everything has been positioned positioned perfectly. We've also got a running theme happening throughout the 3 quadrants. So quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. It looks absolutely amazing. I could take those 4 images and truly pass those off as artwork that I could use in a TikTok. I could use in a website. I could use as channel art if I run a car YouTube channel, for example. But let's go ahead and look at some of the shortened versions, and they're also pretty good. So if you look at this prompt here, BMW M5 competition, race car wide body kit, dynamic pose, cinematic color grading, portrait photography, 50mm lens, ultra angle detail, beautifully colored, insane graded. So you'll notice that a lot of the vehicle images, you should definitely lean into the color grading aspect of it, because that's truly what makes anyone who is in the car industry, their images pop, especially when applying post-production techniques within vehicle style of photography. This looks absolutely amazing. Again, we've got a common theme occurring, and look how simple the prompt is. BMW M5 competition, race, wide body kit, cinematic, grading, 50 coded. Once again, we've got some stunning images. This one down here in the 3rd quadrant, I'm going to go ahead and hit upscale on that. Another set of amazing images. Midjourney does an absolutely beautiful job at this. I'm going to go ahead and also upscale the image in quadrant 1. And there's currently a feature that has been released within Midjourney as we are creating this video, and it's called the panning feature, which is only applied on upscale images. So as you can see, I've got my 2 upscale images. Underneath each upscale image, you get a left, right, up, and down pan. And what this basically does is if I click on any of these buttons, it will pan the image in that particular direction. So let's go left on this particular image, and let's go down on this particular image, and then we can see the results. It's worth mentioning that this function itself at the time of recording is currently in beta. Therefore, I assume it will get better over time. But if we look at the first set of images that have come back, and the pan left works pretty well, we can see that there's a slight zoom out that's been applied, but overall it's created a completely new section towards the left of the image, and it's pushed the vehicle back, whereby I would personally use quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. And where I've selected pan down, it's actually changed the aspect ratio. Therefore, it might be a wise idea if you are using this function to specify the aspect ratio you're interested in. But we can start to see the flaws in this beta model already. As we've asked Midjourney to pan the image down, rather than moving the actual camera angle down, it's created more of a runway, and even in the 4th quadrant image, it's actually duplicated what seems to be another version of the M5. So something that is currently still work in progress. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed these 3 creative lessons or creative sessions, and feel free to use any of the prompts throughout the Midjourney lessons and these creative sessions. Manipulate them in any way you want. Get used to practicing prompts, text to image, and reverse engineering. It's time for the lesson you've all been waiting for, which is the infamous face swap. Now, this seems to be a very sought after lesson, and that's simply because a lot of the information out there on the internet is full of fluff. It's really not that complicated, which is why I'm going to make this lesson very short and very direct to show you just how easy it is to face swap any image that you've generated within Midjourney. So at this point, you should already have your own server created with the Midjourney bot inside. Then from there, what I want you to do is copy the link beneath this video and paste it into your browser. Upon hitting enter, you'll be greeted by this page, which is basically another bot. It's called the Insight Face bot, which you will then add to your server. As you can see, I've got my server selected here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Then from there, I'll hit authorize, verify that I am a human, although I have been called an artificial intelligence bot quite a few times. But if I head back over to my server, over on the right hand side of the screen, I can see the Insight Face swap bot has been added. Then from here, what you want to do is save an image of the face that you're interested in swapping. And to do that, I'm going to hit / save ID, hit enter, and I'll go ahead and upload the image that I want. So I've dragged in an image of Andrew, and then beneath you can see where it says ID name. I'm going to click in here and name the ID Andrew, hit enter. From here, the Insight Face bot has confirmed that the ID name Andrew has been created. So let's go ahead and select some of the images that we've been using throughout this course. I do like this image quite a lot. Therefore, I'm going to right click and save image as. So with that image saved, I'm going to type / swap ID. Now, here I get two options. The very first is to write the ID name, which in this case is Andrew. Then I'm going to drag and drop or click and upload the AI image that I've generated. So you've just seen me save this image, and you've also just seen me create an ID named Andrew. So hit enter now. The Insight Face Swap bot will go ahead and process the AI image with the face of the saved image ID. So here we go. We can see Andrew's face has been added to this image. It probably could be finessed a bit better, and sometimes you need to take into consideration the angles of the AI image that you're using. However, overall, it's pretty good. Let's do another one, but this time I'm going to use an image of T. So once again, / save ID. I put the ID name as T. Then from there, I'm going to upload an image of Tristan. Hit enter. The ID name T has been created. Type in / swap ID. Enter. The ID name is T. And from there, I'm going to upload the GTA image. So with both pieces of information provided, hit enter. So from there, the Insight Face Swap will use the AI image and the face to blend them into one image. Whilst we're waiting for that, let's go ahead and do a few more. So we've got back our GTA prompt with Tristan's face swapped. Looks really good. But there you have it, the lesson on face swap. It's genuinely not that difficult. The only pointer I would give is ensure that if the image has a portrait of a person perhaps looking towards the right, then the image that you use to do the face swap, you should try your very best to make sure the face is in a very similar position. It will help with creating a more authentic image. A really simple process. Genuinely, it's not that complicated, and I look forward to seeing some of your face swap art in the future. For some of you, this might come across as an advanced lesson, especially if you're not familiar with any photo editing. However, I'm still going to run through the lesson because there's multiple requests I've had from students who are interested in having more than one face swap on an image. So here I've got an image with two characters. I'm going to go ahead and save this image. With the image saved, I'm going to go ahead and swap ID Andrew, attach the image, hit enter, and then I will do the exact same process with the exact same image, however with a different ID. In this case, we'll use Tristan. Hit enter, and we'll wait for the Insight Face Swap bot to give us our images back. Okay, so the bot has pinged both our images back, and you can see in the first image, both characters have Andrew Tate's face, and in the second image, both characters have Tristan Tate's face. From here, I'm going to save both images. With both images saved, I'm going to open a photo editing application. Now, for me, I'll be using Photoshop. If you don't have access to Photoshop, then you can use a free online photo editing software. I highly recommend you using photop.com. For what we need to do to ensure the image has two different faces, the steps that I'll walk through within Photoshop are very similar to the steps you'll take in Photopea. Nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and open one of the images. I've opened the first image, which is of Andrew Tate, and I'm going to change the layer in the bottom right hand corner from background into a layer 0. Then what I'll do is drag the second image into Photoshop as another layer. Here I've got the same image but with Tristan Tate's face, and it is positioned as a layer on top of Andrew Tate's. I'm going to go ahead and move this layer underneath because I actually want Tristan Tate's to appear in the background character rather than the foreground character. Then from here, with the Andrew Tate image selected, or the top layer in this case, I'm going to select this icon in the bottom corner which looks slightly like a camera. It is called Layer Masks. And what you'll see is a white box appear in the layer next to your image. And what this essentially allows you to do is manipulate this image to bring the image behind it out. Now to do this, I'm going to click the paintbrush or brush tool on the left hand side. And with my brush tool selected, I want to make sure that my color palette is white and black. I'm going to rotate this so it's black, increase the size of my brush, and then from there, I'm literally just going to rub out the face of Andrew Tate. And I can do this with one click. There we go. Now I have Andrew and Tristan Tate in the same image. From here, I can go ahead, hit file, export as .png or .jpeg, entirely up to you. Depending on the time of you watching this video, there either is or isn't an entire module on Photoshop. This is something I will be doing. As I've said numerous times in any AMAs that you may have tuned in, there isn't necessarily an application that can do some of the functions that Photoshop does. And as part of your creative journey, it is essential for you to have some understanding and awareness of how to use Photoshop properly. Now, with all that being said, I'd like to congratulate you on getting this far within the course. I don't necessarily believe this concludes our learning for Midjourney. There will always be updates, and when they do come, I will be creating new lessons. To ensure you never miss a heartbeat, make sure you check out the new lessons chat, where every day I post the new lessons that are released within the Learning Center.